Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the grand finale of Sondheim month here at Teacup for One. My name is Matt, and I have 2 degrees, and I am so thrilled to be embarking on this journey with all of you because tonight we are discussing not only my favorite Sondheim show, but my favorite musical. And not only my favorite musical, my favorite piece of dramatic writing, and maybe not even my favorite piece of dramatic writing, my favorite piece of writing, like counting novels, screenplays, movies, plays, musicals. Like, the bar is high for me on this one. Tonight we are here to discuss Stephen Sondheim and James Lapine's Into the Woods, this wonderful amalgamation of fairy tales as an examination of what it is to be human. And it's so good, and I love it so much. I know it's a show that means a lot to a lot of people. I feel like it's also a show that has some divisive opinions because, like, it's a very strange show. It totally turns you like around 180 degrees from what you think it starts out as to what it actually becomes. It's a beautiful, beautiful piece of theater, and I'm so thrilled to be diving into it tonight, discussing it with some of our favorite Teacup for One friends. But first, let's see who we have here in the chat. Starting up, we have my cat Sabrina. Hello, little Sabrina. Sabrina likes the show. Sabrina, you have taste, you have class, you are a wonderful, wonderful kitty cat. Also, Sabrina's a black cat, which is kind of like fairy tale-esque, so it makes sense. My other cat, Eliza, is here. Good evening, humans. I don't like this show. Eliza, why don't you like this show? It's a beautiful show. You should do a movie marathon about cats, pretty gray cats. Eliza is a pretty gray cat, and so it would be absolutely delightful to do a movie marathon about pretty gray cats. Eliza, I don't think there's very many movies about or starring your type of cat, but if we make a movie, Eliza, we can discuss it here. There we go. And my mother, Martha's here. Hello, this should be a fun show. This should be a fun show. All right, let's bring in our first guest for this evening. It's Jeanette Tinker J. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Welcome to the woods.
Yes, going into the woods right now. I feel I'm so excited for this one.
I'm so excited as well. So quick, favorite fairy tale. Let's go with that.
Oh my goodness, favorite fairy tale. Okay, well, can I tell you something since we're on the topic of alternative fairy tales?
Yeah.
Can I tell you there's a book that I grew up with in the mid-90s that was an alternative fairy tale. And I don't know if anybody here knows about it. I can't remember if it was here. Maybe it was. Maybe it was We Like Theme Parks. I brought it up on where I talked about the Stinky Cheese Man.
This sounds familiar.
Yes, Stinky Cheese Man. I'm going to list this just because I want to file it under alternative. If you like this, you may like, in the theme of Matt. If you like this, you will like this other thing that is an alternative fairy tale. It has related to it. I think the author did like a Big Bad Wolf alternative.
Oh, yes. As
well.
Yes, I remember that book. I love that book.
Yes, that author did 2 different ones, and the Stinky Cheese Man is the gingerbread man. Yes, so it's that. So I would say go watch. Not watch. I'm sorry, it's a book. Go do that. It's 2023. I'm used to saying go watch that because nobody reads anymore. Nobody reads. So yes.
Okay, Stinky Cheese Man. Got it. Perfect. Done. All right, brilliant. Let's bring in our next guest for this evening, rounding out the panel. It's Alex T-Tie, everyone.
Hey,
Alex. Welcome. So same question. Do you have a favorite fairy tale, or like in this moment, what fairy tale would you say resonates with you?
In this moment, like the metal band?
Yeah. What?
In this moment,
life has begun.
In this moment is a very good metal band.
Now we know.
In this moment. Favorite fairy tale?
Yeah.
The Bible.
Oh God! Here we go. Starting off with a bang, people.
Alex, I said fairy tale, not science fiction. Come on.
Oh yeah, I forgot we had our whole debate about sci-fi.
Can we not have an alternative history, at least?
Yeah, let's get a little revisionist here. No, I mean, in fairness, my favorite animated film is The Prince of Egypt. So I really do like that story. And
so you were like,
for real,
yeah,
for real. You're watching animation at that point in history, and that's the one you choose.
Prince of Egypt
What
is
do you
a
mean, like the
brilliant
90s
movie.
or like ancient Egypt?
No, like that point in time. Yeah, the 90s. That part is
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, I feel like
Egypt, whatever.
in Prince of Egypt's defense, that came out when Disney animation was starting to go downhill.
Sure,
Yeah.
but it was like Atlantis era, and I would argue that
Oh,
Atlantis is.
Well, I wouldn't. I loved Prince of Egypt. I think Prince of Egypt is way better than Atlantis. I also really like
Okay.
Titan AE, and that's
Also
a
liked
close
what?
second.
What's the other
Titan.
one?
It's the better
Titan
of
AE.
like I watched Titan AE instead of Treasure Planet and Treasure Planet with Disney, and I still haven't seen Treasure Planet. So
Yeah,
It's
Titan
I
AE is
don't know.
pretty good.
It's a movie. It's fine. It's a yeah.
it's Titan AE is not fantastic, but it's better than Treasure Planet. I think.
pretty good.
I think,
It's
right?
pretty good.
I don't know. We're
It's
off
pretty
base.
great.
I'm sorry. We're talking about alternative fairy tale universes, though. So.
Yeah.
See, Martha has a conventional answer. Cinderella. Yes.
This is my favorite fairy tale. If
Cinderella.
you hey, okay, if you want a conventional answer, I would say that I think that Sleeping Beauty is my favorite because of all the interpretations. Everyone is very different and everyone focuses on a different thing. There's people who are dead, there's people who are asleep, there's people who are cursed, there's people who are fairies, there's people who are human. Like everything is so altered in every version of that story I hear, down to the Anne Rice erotica version.
There's an
Everybody
Anne
should read
Rice
it.
erotica Sleeping Beauty. Are there vampires?
Should read it.
She's a vampire, isn't she?
No, I'm just saying,
What?
no vampires. Go for it. Everybody
Is
go read
there?
it.
She's not
It's
allowed to write
fantastic.
things without vampires.
Of course she is.
That just reminded me the whole Sleeping Beauty erotica thing. It's like I don't know. There has to be a fetish for people doing sexual acts on.
That's a
sleeping
different
people.
show. That's a different show.
Oh,
That's-
okay.
Yeah.
I thought we were going there. I thought the invite was wide
HBO
open.
people, go check it out.
Yeah. Okay.
So
You're there. Okay.
on the fact of fairy tale.
Yeah. Wonderful. Okay. What a strange, quick downward spiral that took us in, which is so
We are in the
perfectly
woods.
appropriate
We're in
for
the
this.
woods.
I don't know what my favorite fairy tale is now that I'm thinking about it. I might almost go for Cinderella as well, for similar reasons to Jeanette's thoughts about Sleeping Beauty, just because I think it's interesting that a version of it exists in so many cultures going so far back, because I think there's something so fundamentally human about the story of like a person in like terrible circumstances who is just magically given a better life. I love
that
it.
True?
Beautiful.
Is
I think so.
Cinderella's story? No. I mean, well, what do you mean you think so? You just made a claim. That
Well, no, I think. Well, my claim about how it's a universal story about people in bad positions wanting to be in better places.
Yeah.
Well, that okay, yeah. Okay, let's go from Cinderella crosses cultures to person wants to be better.
Oh well,
yeah,
is that what you were asking? Like,
were you
asking? Is it true that
yeah,
there is?
I thought you were saying. I thought you were suggesting because there are examples, right? Like the messianic Jesus story is in the time that it was created. There are Arabic cultures and Jewish cultures and
are you bringing
whatever.
back the Bible again to your favorite
Greek
fairy
cultures?
tale?
Yeah, no, but I'm just saying there are stories that are.
I would agree. I would agree with Alex. There's stories, honestly, about both of these things, about impoverished people brought into power, and about that's just fables. And so that's where fairy tales came from, and that's where we are, and that's where Disney movies came from. And honestly, that's like what the modern day version of fairy tale. It's a retelling under an umbrella.
Avatar's Pocahontas.
What?
We always have to bring it back to the Avatar.
Avatar is Atlantis, the Lost Empire.
The Avatar hate, and I don't like it.
Composer of great songs. I do think that.
Hey, I rewatched the second movie recently, and I had a good time. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's nice. That's nice for you. It's coming to Disney Plus soon, so we can all see it.
Yeah.
As much as we want.
June 7th.
I think so. It's soon.
Whatever day it is, I'll be in my basement with some popcorn.
I'd be curious to see it not in 3D. To see.
Not the video game frame rate and stuff. Yeah.
And here I am thinking I'd like to see it 3D, but.
I feel I wonder if the video game frame rate is going to carry over when it's on Disney Plus. Well, I think that's such an integral part of the movie.
I don't think it will because one, you have to have screen. Like not every screen can like, I mean, I guess modern. I don't know what the frame rate was. Was it like?
No, it was
I don't
I
know
think it
what it
was
reads.
48. It might have
Oh,
been
okay.
double or 70.
Yeah.
No, like
So I guess
you
every
can
TV can
still,
do it.
I
Yeah.
think any TV can screen any frame rate.
Well,
I
that's not
think.
the entire. That's not strictly speaking true. Frame
Well,
rate
that's why I
is
said I
tied to
think.
refresh rate. You can't have a
Oh,
higher.
okay.
If you have a higher frame rate than your refresh rate,
Mhm.
that which is a hardware thing, then it won't matter what
But
the frame rate is.
if something was recorded in 1989 and you played it on your TV now, what would it look like? Because that was what I struggled with this week.
Over into the
This recording.
Oh, like Seinfeld.
Jeanette bringing it back. I love it.
I'm just saying, when you started talking about it, I'm like, but what happens when you have to retrograde something? Because I'm trying to watch this thing and I'm like, I'm sorry, we'll get to the point that I'm making, and Matt knows the point I'm making, when it becomes
right.
very valid whether you can see the screen or not. Clearly.
Maybe just because I'm so used to the quality of this, because I owned this on VHS in the early 2000s. So like
How I
the
feel
way
about
it looks,
about cats. My friend had cats on VHS, and I watched it a bunch of times, and now I can't find a good. I'm like,
except it was better quality than the Assassin's bootleg last week.
yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about Into the Woods.
Into the Woods.
I love Into the Woods. So let's open with our usual opening question. Tell me about when you discovered the show, discovered the material, be it through the movie or the show itself. I'll go first. I obviously have a long history with it, since I opened by saying that it's like my favorite thing ever. I discovered it in grade 7 because I was on the internet just reading about theater and auditions and stuff. And somehow I fell down the rabbit hole of discovering that this show existed and that there was a VHS copy of it. So I ordered it from the local video store. It was a special order. It was so magical at the time because Rogers Video, who was one of the big video retailers in Canada, rest in peace, they had this huge catalog of VHS tapes that they could special order. So Into the Woods was there. I ordered it. Like 2 months later, it showed up, and I just sat down and watched it and was utterly engaged by everything that was happening. And then I tried to convince my elementary school to put on a production because I discovered Into the Woods Junior was a thing that existed. They promptly said no. And then I got to be in it. No, I auditioned for it when I was in grade 10 for a community theater production. And then they also turned me down because at that time I wanted to be Jack. Then grade 12, my high school finally did it. And I got to be the mysterious man, which was awesome. Then in university, I did it again, and I was the baker. And it's my favorite show, and I adore it. And every time I revisit it, I discover new things. Alex, you may speak now.
You were in the first in the school production where you're the mysterious man. Were you just the mysterious man, or were you also the narrator?
No, they didn't split it. They like individually cast every single role just to try to get more people involved, because like I went to an arts high school, which I might have mentioned before. So there were a lot of people who wanted to audition, and even picking that show was kind of a weird choice because it doesn't have a ton of roles or an ensemble just in its nature. So it had a smaller cast than most productions typically did. So a lot of people weren't happy that they didn't get to be in it, but I was a guy who was in grade 12. So obviously I was going to be in it in some capacity. I was just happy I wasn't Cinderella's dad. When we were auditioning, I went from I really want to be the baker to anything but Cinderella's dad. And I wasn't Cinderella's dad. So there we go. Jeanette, let's jump to you next. How'd you discover this show?
So I don't know what my knowledge of it was before the movie. I feel like I either didn't know what it was or I'd heard the title and had no idea what it actually was. I did not go to the theater to see it. I think I watched it on Blu-ray at a point in time whenever, if you didn't have cable, you went out and bought Blu-rays of things to watch. Like that point in time, like 2008 to 2012, like, you know, when 2014 was when this came out. So it must have been after this. Either I watched it on demand or I bought it on Blu-ray, something. But once I watched it, I loved the movie. And I know we'll get into this later, but I did. I loved the movie, and I like musicals. I knew who Sondheim was. I knew he'd done Sweeney Todd, and that was what I knew him for at that point in time. The piece of work itself I fell in love with. I liked the message. I watched it again and again. Like I watched it over and over again, and you get something. It's one of those things, you get something new from it every time. I listened to the soundtrack of the original cast with Bernadette Peters
Mhm.
when I got into it. So I looked up the soundtrack and I listened to that before, but I'd never seen the production. I'd never seen, I think, more than just some stills from that production. And we'll again, we'll get into why that's valid later. There's a lot of reasons, but there's one glaring reason why I think this production is wildly different than the movie. So, yeah, we'll get into that. But I didn't see the stage production until you sent me the link to the very valid stage production that is available to people to watch. So,
Yes. Well said. Oh yeah, the movie. We'll talk about the movie. I was so excited for that movie because that was when I was like
love that movie
deep-rooted.
still. I just
Oh,
watched it again.
I need to give it a third chance. When it came out, I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it and I appreciated it. When I rewatched it this week, wasn't a fan. I need to go back. But yeah, when I was in probably university, my first year, and Facebook was relatively new, I started this group it was called Tim Burton Needs to Direct Into the Woods Next. And
that might have been better than Alice in Wonderland for him, honestly.
Yeah.
Probably would have been the better choice.
Yep.
I'll say that now.
Yep.
Probably would have been the better choice for him. I love his Alice, his first Alice. So yeah.
But yeah, I was excited it was Rob Marshall because even though he makes some movies that aren't great, he's still one of my favorite directors. But he made choices in the movie that I want to talk to him about one day when we work together. It'll happen. Alex, how did you discover?
Maybe he'll be in the chat.
Yeah, maybe he will. Rob, come in the chat. Come on, bring John. Rob and John, join us. Come speak. Okay, Alex.
Yeah, so similar to Jeanette, I want to say I didn't really think about Into the Woods at all. I wasn't really aware of it until, in my case, I don't know when. So it came out in 2014, the film,
movie
adaptation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so that would have been right around 15. Yeah, that would have been right. That's when I started my journey in musical theater college. And that's when I started my program. And yeah, that's when people in my class were doing scenes from the musical in our sort of scene work classes. And I guess the movie had come out and people were hyped about the film and had strong opinions kind of both ways. I think most of the people that I remember talking about it liked it. Yeah, so that's when I kind of was like, okay. And I did a couple of scenes with people, not my own. I didn't pick stuff from the show to work on, but other people did. And we kind of collaborated in that way. So, and then I don't remember how I watched the movie. It's possible that I saw it in theaters if it had a theatrical release, which I assume it did. But yeah, and either way, I saw it right around then, I guess when it came out, and I enjoyed it. I didn't like love it, but I didn't, I didn't hate it or anything like that. I was like, oh, it was fun. It had like fun actors. I had little nitpicks here and there overall. But then I also, by virtue of the scene work, I had started reading the script of the musical, and then I didn't watch the Broadway the VHS recording on YouTube. I didn't watch. I don't know when I watched that. I either watched it like in 2017 in my last year of college, or I watched it like maybe when I started hanging out with you, Matt. Because it was one of those things that I knew that.
Oh, yeah, no. When I don't think you knew this recording existed until I told you, because I remember we had that discussion. I said it's here. You said, wait, there's a pro shoot of Into the Woods. I said yes.
So maybe that's true.
I think I introduced you to this.
Are you sure that wasn't? Are you sure that wasn't in reference to Beauty and the Beast?
No, that was in reference to Into the Woods.
Okay, so yeah, so then it's maybe that's it then. So yeah, so I guess I wasn't aware of. I may have seen scenes. Almost certainly saw scenes of the OG pro shoot, but little clips and stuff like that. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, that's my starting history with the show.
Well done. Well,
Thank you.
let's bring up a question here from Bob. Is there an "I'm not good, I'm not nice, I'm just right" T-shirt in the Teacup for One T-shirt shop? Well, I mean, technically, like Into the Woods is copywritten material, so I don't have any Into the Woods shirts. I do have fairy tale inspired
Yeah.
shirts. One of which is this lovely fairy tale inspired grocery list, cow cape hair slipper.
I wanted to ask you for isn't it good to know a lot? And then on the back, and a little bit
But
not.
A little
Like,
Ooh, that's
yeah.
fun.
That's the one I would buy.
That is a good one. I mean, that's
That
just a
would be my
sentiment.
favorite.
That's not. I feel like that's not a sentiment or a thought that's exclusive to this show. It could go
like
on a shirt.
literally of all of like the 20 to 50 different one-liner parables and lessons you could take out of this musical, probably my favorite.
Ooh, well,
See-
let's jump into that. What's everyone's favorite one-liner parable? I mean, Jeanette just told us ours, but Alex, do you have
Well,
one?
so hold on. I'll say that
Yeah, go.
actually my favorite line is the "I'm not good, I'm not bad, I'm just right." But it's specifically my favorite part of that line is the last part, which is "I'm the witch, you're the world."
Why
Yeah,
is
that's
that?
my favorite. Yeah, because it's such an encompassing statement, right? Like it's both simple and also it it contains within it that whole dynamic of otherness and being an outcast.
Can I tell you, I also think that line is the thing that allows you to take anything you find in this play and blow it up to whatever meaning that you need for it. Like, I'm sitting here thinking, and I'm like, I'm watching it, and I'm like, oh, that can't possibly be what they intended it to mean. That can't possibly be what they intended it to mean. And then they say, right? She says that, and it's almost like it's giving you license to be like, no, this whole thing is a whole microcosm of the world, and whatever the hell you see in this is what you see in this.
That's why it's so good.
Yeah,
like I love that line. I love that line.
But it seems like you're kind of interpreting it in an interesting way. Like it's like that it gives like permission to or it lets you know that, because I guess the way I interpret that line is like the witch is basically, in a simple way, she's delineating between herself and everybody else. She's saying she's saying like the way I see the world is fundamentally different than the way you see the world. And I guess you're kind of expanding that to like the audience as well. Like the way you see this world is like,
well, like it could be, I'm the witch, you're the world. It could be a side and another side. Each side sees I'm the problem. You think I'm the problem. You're, you're judging me. Like the world is the judgment. I'm the witch, you're the right. And I think again, I do wish I had another lady here tonight, because there's a whole like category of like female interpretation of this musical, and then I do feel like if you grow up in a traditional male role, a whole male interpretation of this musical. But I do think there's a much larger category, just because I'm able to identify it probably, of like things that are going on, like I'm the witch, you're the world, right? Like I also see, you could see that as a woman as I'm the old, tired woman, right? I am the useless woman. I am not attractive. I am not bearing children. I am not working. You're the world, right? Like there's a whole number, right? And you can take it. That's how the Bible is too, right? If you want to bring it back to your little analogy, right? You can interpret it however you'd like, however you need to work for you.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah. And this is exactly why I love this show so much. I think there's such a deep simplicity to almost every single thing that's said throughout the entirety of the show. Like another one that I love is "Nice is different than good." Bob Hunt, "Wanting a ball is not wanting a prince." That's another one, but
that's a good one. It's a good one.
Yeah. But like even when the show came out, there were so many people who were jumping in and saying, "Oh, this is very clearly about like a reaction to the AIDS pandemic or the AIDS surge," and that's what the giant represented, because like New York City in the late 1980s. And then after that, people were layering on different things about what the giant could represent. And then either Sondheim or Lapine said, listen, sometimes a giant is just a giant, and you read into it what you need to. And this is a show that comes back after like there was that. Then the first revival was after 9/11. The most recent revival was following the pandemic.
That's what I was getting at, is when I'm watching it, I go, all of these people band together as soon as there's something that affects all of them.
Mhm.
And I was thinking that I'm like, what was happening then? Okay, sure. But what was happening after that? Sure. So it's relatable, right? It carries on. It's you read into it. Yeah. So
Yeah,
I'd say good to hear the artist say that, because when you hear the artist say that, it's always validating. Not every artist does that. Some artists do that with certain pieces of work that people raise a big stink about and want to know what the heck it means. And
Mhm.
yeah.
No, and I
usually it
love
means
that.
you've affected somebody.
Yeah, like I love that just it's open enough, just like fairy tales or the Bible, that as time goes on in different historical moments in the woods, it's still relevant, but for different reasons. Even like in the most recent revival, I think there was a performance happening around the same time that the whole Roe versus Wade debacle happened. And then when Jack's mom had the line, "That's okay too," after she says, "I don't have children," there was apparently like a surge of applause that evening.
Can we talk about that? How
Let's
that
talk about
wasn't
it.
in this freaking movie?
Yeah.
That was nowhere in this movie. A lot of the stuff about the whole baby situation, not in this movie at all. I didn't know there was so much stuff about fertility and babies until I watched the stage production, and now I'm a little bit ticked off. I do understand there's a whole time thing, and if you're Disney, you're making decisions and yada 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 yada. But if you're willing to support certain people's rights, let's be willing to support other people's rights. Like,
Yeah.
if you're going to make that outreach in other movies for other people, let's make, you're going to cut a one line that could potentially make a huge difference. And kudos to them. They're turning around now and making better decisions. But at the same time, yeah, when I saw that in the stage production, Jack's mother actually has a lot of lines that are very pertinent, very pointed, and don't show up in the movie. And it pisses me off. I'm sorry, because Tracy Ullman
Oh my
is the
gosh.
person, and she's so good at breaking
So good.
boundaries. And like I'm like, you're gonna put her in the role in the movie. But anyway,
It just
the
feels like
woman,
such a waste of Tracy Ullman in that movie.
it is. And can I say the woman in the stage production, the original, I can't remember her name right now,
Barbara, I think it's
but
Barbara Fulton.
something, she looks like Rachel Dratch, and I kept thinking it was Rachel Dratch, and I was like, oh my god, it's Rachel Dratch. And I was like, no, this is like 10 years before Rachel Dratch looked like that. And so like, it can't be her. She would have been perfect in that role, though. Can I tell you, I love Tracy Ullman, but I kind of wish I could see Rachel Dratch in that role.
Oh my gosh.
I think she'd be amazing.
I don't know if Rachel Dratch could like carry the heart. I don't know if I could believe that she loves her kid.
I want to believe she could, because we haven't given her that license.
That's
Nobody's
true.
given her that license yet.
That's true. That's true. Let's give her the license. But yeah, I guess while we're talking about the movie, this is my big issue with the movie. Or I guess we're kind of going in all different directions, but whatever. We'll circle to all the things we need to in due time.
I'm sorry.
This is one of my major issues with the movie, and it's an issue that I held when it came out and I hold now. And it kind of goes hand in hand with how I interpret the show. So I feel like this might be a hot take, but I think part of the reason the film doesn't work for me is that I think Jack and Red are cast way too young. I think it works in the stage show that they play as being older teenagers almost. And I think it's a lot more powerful or rather, no, let me backtrack. Rob Marshall approached it as being a show that's about parents and children, which it's not about that, but I don't think that's the main thing that it's about. I think it's about the process of growing up in some capacity and about rebuilding your life after you experience loss. And so the beauty of the way that the show is structured is that the four people who are still alive at the end are the four people that were the most sheltered throughout the entire show. Like they're the people who more or less were defined by their relationships to other people, like Jack and his relationship to his mom, Red to her granny, Baker and wife, and Cinderella having her whole thing of like, I feel protected in my abusive home with my father, but I also feel protected with the king, but I don't feel like I'm at home in either of those places. So when all of those people lose those things that seemingly define them, they have to figure out who they are outside of that and come into themselves as individuals. And I think that's a beautiful thing on its own. But then if you have Jack and Red being too young, like skirting around 12 to 13, taking a parent away from a kid that young turns them into an orphan, and they're not so much in a place where they can look after themselves, and it's more of a tragedy. And then it loses the power of a line that, again, I think they cut for the movie, when Jack says, "Who's going to take care of me?" And then the baker says, "You have to take care of yourself now, Jack. It's time." And so ending with the four of them kind of as equals figuring it out, to me, is a lot more powerful than now the baker and Cinderella are mom and dad to these two little kids. And I don't like that. Yes, Alex, you may speak now.
And how, I mean, I would argue that the staged, like the recording of like the stage production and the production like we saw in Buffalo, like I would argue that Into the Woods does end with Baker and Cinderella are mom and dad now. Like,
I don't think
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I feel like in the stage production, I will say, okay, so here, let's get into, right. I do like her being a touch older, because I think there's a whole sexual overtone with her storyline that's like a little bit creepy if she's.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing. That's creepy too. The wolf scene is, they can't go all the way with the wolf scene.
Not creepy. I don't know.
You mean her and Jack?
It was Johnny Depp, and I'm willing to be be okay with it if it's Johnny Depp. So
any little girl is safe with Johnny Depp.
Fine. So yeah, I'm willing to go with it. But yeah, at the same time, in the stage production, I could see how that would have been a freaking problem with what was going on there. I'm saving that little tidbit for people who don't know. Oh my God, it blew my mind. But Jack, I will say, in the stage production, let's get into Tracy Ullman's character. The character of Jack in the stage production is portrayed as slightly older. At least in the older production, right? I don't know about any newer production. Jack is, let me just say, Jack in the movie, one of my favorite characters as far as growth. He has one of my favorite songs. I really like him in the movie. Stage production, she says something to him that means that he is a little bit slow, a little bit maybe challenged, right? And in the movie, we don't do that. We just insinuate that he's young, and that's why he is not picking up on things or whatever. There's a big difference there. And I think that's why that line is cut about, Jack, you have to go off on your own now, right? Like, because I do think the age difference is there. They can't do that in the movie. But as far as them being orphans, look, you know what? Disney did this movie, didn't they? They didn't give two stinking hoots about orphans. Nemo's an orphan from the time, he's got one parent missing from the time he's a little baby. Like, let's get into orphans in those movies. They don't care. So the movie's going to do that. I do think it's fine for the movie, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah, no, like I definitely think it's fine for them to be orphans in theory. Like, I'm not against the idea of them being orphans and that being too sad in that way. I feel like it just doesn't have as strong or emotional of a payoff, because then again, they're still, the four of them are defining themselves now by their relationships to one another, and like they're finding replacements for the people they've lost, instead of that beautiful moment of growth that I feel exists in the stage show of, this is who I am as an individual, and now these are my friends that I
think that's what's different about this. Is there's this big family element to this whole story, right? Like, all these people, these are the people that really wanted to end up with a family. I didn't have a family. My family's dead. I didn't have a family. Right? Like, there's two and two. And I don't know. I mean, I feel like there's this whole nuclear family aspect to this thing that, like, you can take it or you can leave it. Maybe the people who didn't want to follow a nuclear family are the ones who died. Let's think about that. But that's an interesting thought that I noticed in the stage production more than the movie. Like, the ones who didn't want to follow a nuclear family are the ones who.
Interesting. How do you put that? How do you overlay that on the baker and his wife? Is it because the wife kind of deviates?
The wife, sure, and her storyline is fascinating to me. So we'll get into that. But yes, I mean, I feel like, because I do feel like, I don't know what Sondheim had going on in his head, but I do feel like he's got something for adulterers. She does it, and man, she's dead. That's it. You did that. You're dead. I don't appreciate that. That's not like, what the hell? I don't know what that
Yeah, well,
message
actually,
is.
no. That's another
It's a
thing that
tragedy.
they've commented on. They've commented on people who said, "Did she die because she cheated on her husband and that's her punishment?" And they were like,
No.
"No, she was
So
literally in the wrong place at the wrong time, and she's just a casualty."
I came to a conclusion that very much like, I don't know, she came to her aha moment and her realization for living, and then in a
Tragically,
fairy tale world, that's all you need to know.
Whoa.
And there it is. Like, that's your fate. Your fable's done. You've learned your lesson.
Thanos snap.
Now exactly. Like, you're done. Like, your character has no more use here. So, like,
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a whole parable. Her, as I've grown up, her character becomes the one I follow the most. Like, I really identify with the baker's wife, and like, yeah.
Let's talk about the baker's wife. We're here now. Let's go. Let's go. She's an interesting character, and since I discovered this show at such a I was probably 12 or 13 or something. I was able to read the back of the VHS cover, so I knew that Joanna Gleason as the baker's wife was a big deal. Like, I knew she won the Tony for it. I read enough people saying it's the best role in the show, and then I just watched it and thought, I don't get it.
Oh my God, I was about to say I could totally see that.
Yeah, no, and I was like, I understand, I get something's going on here, but I recognize that I just don't understand what it is. And as I've gotten older, I've started to more so appreciate the nuance within her within her big song, within Moments in the Woods, and appreciate the journey her character goes on. But it's one of those things I'm constantly discovering and learning about as I see it. And I feel like I still don't fully understand it. But Jeanette, tell us your take on the baker's wife.
So there's a through line in the whole thing that I feel is true. More so, again, after seeing the stage production. I'd listened to the soundtrack, so I feel like I'd heard it, but seeing it, and I think Joanna Gleason is one of the ones that brought it to life for me. Seeing it on the recording, I don't think she shines as much as maybe some other players. But in the watching it, I'm like, oh my God. Her character, I think if you look at the whole storyline, so I feel like Red starts the female storyline. I feel like the baker's wife takes up the majority of women's life, and then I feel like the witch is the midnight hours of a woman's life. I do feel like there are some nods to who you can choose to be. You can choose to be Jack's mother. You can choose to be Snow White and Rapunzel. Right? Like, there are these offshoots, but there are these basic female archetypes that we focus on. And I do feel like the baker's wife is the common one that we focus on, because it is the majority of women. How they talk about there are wolves and princes and humans in the world, and there's a small percentage of each of those, but it's humans, right? Like, this is who we're focusing on. And I feel like her storyline, she has the most growth. Her, and in the movie, I feel like Jack has a lot of growth. In the play, I do not feel like Jack has a ton of growth. I don't know what that is. Maybe it's the actor, maybe it's the age. I don't know. Jack in the play is lost for me to some degree. Totally different than the movie for me. But the baker's wife, I feel like she really has a lot of moments where she's talking about really realizing what's happening, really realizing, like, I almost feel like she's the most cheeky. She's the most like breaking the fourth wall, not genuinely. Like, in the stage production, it's obviously the mysterious man and the narrator and all that. But I do feel like she has the most outward realization of what's happening to her. There's also this story of choice that goes with every character. Every character has this choice, and they have to make a choice, and right, that's why we're in the woods. We have to make this choice. But she has this very serious moment of something has genuinely happened to me, right? Like, this thing has happened, and my whole life could be altered because of this. Or I could choose for it not to be. And then that's where I'm saying she chooses for it not to be. She chooses to overcome. And what is her reward?
Getting stepped on.
But yeah, exactly. I'm like, I want to love this moment of growth for this person. But when I see it, I'm like, oh God. And then like it's almost like in the movie, they try to make it into like this Hamilton moment where it's like this, like at the moment with Eliza, like,
Oh yeah.
like this like
Oh, yeah.
aha moment, but it's very much not an aha moment for her. Oh God. But she literally has like this very brilliant and bright and beautiful moment of growth that might be more applicable to the general audience than any other storyline in this, in my opinion. Like this whole like you can't have an and, you can only have an or. For most people, that is true. For humans, that is true. So like it just kills me that like she chooses to make the, in my opinion, the right decision. And maybe that's what I'm missing. Maybe I'm so blind to the other stories that I am missing why she needs to be punished by death. But I do feel like that's a storyline for modern day world. Maybe that's where Sondheim is coming from. Like, no matter what you do, if you're an adulterer, screw you.
Oh, that's fun.
So that's where her storyline for me radiates like beautifully, just because I think that it's almost this I don't know, it's just like this, she goes through, nothing is really her, I don't want to say nothing's her fault, that's wrong. Her husband can't have a child because of a curse put on him, right?
Yeah.
Her husband goes out in the woods and she's worried about him and genuinely saves him a couple of times.
Yeah.
Right? Or at least gives him the right advice, at very least. Then is just out there trying to do the things she needs to do and is swept, like literally swept, like pulled into the arms, like yanked physically into the arms of another man. And says no. Consent, people. I'm just saying, I'm not trying to like make this a PC thing. I'm just saying, like, says no a couple of times. Stuff happens anyway, and then still decides to make the right decision and it dies because of it.
Wow.
And so yeah, I don't know. Her storyline resonates with me. Her yeah.
Yeah. Oh my
beautiful.
God. I love that. I love
I
it.
think that's in line with like mostly with what, you know, Matt and I kind of feel about her character as well. Like in overall, in terms of the universality of the message and the like the whatever, like yeah, the that character's story being in some way relatable. I mean, not to you know, take something that belongs in the, you know, feminine domain and you know bring it over to my side, but like yeah,
are you gonna mansplain the baker's wife to us?
no I'm just
No, it is, it's a universal thing of having to make a choice.
Yeah, and that whole thing you said about like the and or and like her, yeah, the lyrics in her song and her conundrum and her experience with her husband and trying to like negotiate between what your own internal desires and your obligations to your family and the people you have relationships with and your the disappointments and hopes and dreams and all these things. Like it's her, that character. I mean, every character has these elements, but yeah, I think you're right, Jeanette, that the baker's wife is kind of in a lot of ways is the most full of all of these sort of aspects of human existence or whatever. Like she's so she has so many dynamics and sort of sides to her and ways that she plays compared to even the other character. Even though I think a lot of the characters in the show and you know, my personal favorite character is the witch, and I think the witch has a depth and complexity to her as well. But
there's only there's only like a few characters though that are really genuinely multi-dimensional, I feel.
Ooh,
and she's one of them. And I will also say this whole thing where she says, if you just, to paraphrase, if you live a life of moments, you won't know that you've lived a life, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think that's applicable to anybody, but I think to anybody who's in a moment of duress of, I want to live for me. I want to do what I want to do. I want to indulge. I want whatever. That motto, that parable, whatever, I feel like is applicable to any human. Like,
Yeah.
you
Hedonism.
know, I feel like that whole moment is just a point of interest for anyone that is struggling with a choice between, I have things that interest me and I have things that would be good for my family or my friends or the world or whatever the case is. So
Yeah.
Love it. So we've talked about the wife. Let's talk about the baker. He's my favorite. I love the baker. He's my, well, I'm
Baker's
biased.
boring.
you
We
mean
don't
you
wanna
mean
care about the
you mean
Baker.
you mean and Ken?
Yeah, and Ken.
Sorry.
She is everything, and he's just Ken. I think. I mean, part of the reason I think that the baker's wife has to die is to put him in the position it puts him in, where he needs to make a decision for the and actually be active for the first time.
The
in his
man's
life.
got to learn, Jeanette. If the
man
wife
has to-
has to die
sure.
for the man to learn,
I'm like, Jesus, right? You know,
Yeah.
come on.
But, and it's just so interesting because he is basically useless. He is so useless, and he tries so hard, which is so endearing about him. Like, you could tell that his heart's in the right place, but he does so many things for the wrong reasons. And the more I reflect on that relationship, like, I think it could be played out as a genuinely loving relationship or just a relationship of convenience for the two of them in one way or another. Like, the more I think about the baker, the more I feel that he's more focused on building the life he thinks he's supposed to have. Like, being deprived of parents as a kid. He's like, I need to have a family. I need to be a dad. I need to have a kid. This is the woman who's like, I'm going to build that life with, whether or not she's the right match for me or I'm the right match for her. We're married. And since I'm the man, I'm going to be the one who gets the things for the potion, even though she's obviously more useful than me. I'm going to push her away and be like, no, let me do this on my own instead of us working together. And then he eventually overcomes that a little bit, but I adore the baker. He's such a complex yet basic character. But how do we feel about their relationship? Do we think it's a good marriage? Do we think there's love there? Do we not think there's love there? I think it could go either way, the way that it's written, the way that it's performed by Joanna and Chip. I feel like there is love and appreciation there that's just a little bit misplaced. But yeah, what's everyone's general feelings?
I mean, I'm not, maybe not fully disagree, but partially disagree with you on to say that it can go either way. I would say that I think the script's pretty clear that at least, if not at the beginning of the show, then at least by the time It Takes Two, and certainly by the time the baker's wife has her song, I would argue that there's definitely love there. Like, her song is.
I feel like
about
her
love.
song. My thought on her song on Moments in the Woods is, if I was performing the baker's wife, which will never
one day happen.
Who knows? Maybe it will one day. I almost feel like Moments in the Woods is part of her journey of realizing that for all the decisions that she has, all the paths she could have followed, despite any doubt she's had before, she makes the choice, yes, actually, I do love him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she understands, and it's time to leave the woods or my husband. It's time to leave the woods. I think that's the first time that maybe as a character, she accepts, I do actually love him and I do want this life with him, and I'm going to go back to him and we're going to figure it out and have a family, whatever. But I think it takes up to that point in the story for her to come to that realization. And I feel he doesn't recognize how much he actually loves her until she dies. I think he just takes for granted that she's there and will always be there. But yeah, Jeanette, what do you think of those two?
Hey, you made a really good statement there. He takes her for granted and assumes she'll be there, right? Like, I thought that's a wonderful statement there. The baker. I find the baker to be suitably boring. I think he's supposed to be unintriguing, right? Like, that's kind of the point. These other the princes are supposed to be far more intriguing than him, right?
What can I say?
So, like, that's how it's supposed to be. I do think the stage production that I watched gave the James Corden was not the right choice for the freaking Baker.
Probably
like
one of
James
James Corden's best performances.
I
I like
also
James Corden as the
did
Baker.
not enjoy the Baker as the narrator. That didn't make me
No,
happy.
I hate that.
In the
We'll discuss
movie,
that.
I
Oh,
much
in the movie,
far
okay.
preferred what's in the stage production. That is superior. So, cutting the Baker's father almost in general kind of stinks. That cuts this whole element of like he's alive and here and like
yeah, let's
it's
discuss
this whole
that.
thing.
Let's discuss
Closure and
that.
catharsis and
The Baker, I think that without that, so here's what I want to say. I think the Baker is the archetype of the general middle-aged man, right? He's struggling with, am I my father? Am I not my father? Do I do my own thing? Am I successful at my own thing? Am I successful at being my father? I think it's this, I personally think he's a wonderful, they're both beautiful archetypes of each of the sexes or the genders or however you want to play that out in their middle age, in the prime of their life where they're having the most thoughts about these things, right? And I do feel like the witch and the dad are almost archetypes of that age of life. Women are very much like, I'm going to start to be what you view as rude. Men, I'm going to do anything I can to please the women around me because, right, if you're in that situation, right, at that point in life. So, I don't know. I thought the Baker played it out beautifully, but it's a sad archetype.
Oh, it's such a sad archetype. He's such a sad character. I adore him. But I think the movie absolutely does him an injustice by getting rid of the mysterious man. And it makes me so angry.
Yeah.
Because I think that's that's the essence of who that character is.
Yeah, it makes so why his character doesn't work in the movie for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, and it's so meaningful, I feel, to have the moment when they reconnect with like whether he's talking to his dad's ghost or whether he's physically there. That's up for debate. But that song is like my favorite song in the show, probably. I could be biased because I've gotten to do both parts of it. Because again, I was the mysterious man in high school, and then I was the Baker. And there's like something so tragically beautiful about the Baker, like very actively trying to not be his father, and then when things are in a horrible situation, in the interest of doing what he thinks is best for his child, he realizes that I am doing the same thing that my dad did, which I feel is so beautiful. And that whole scene, like when it's like, aren't you running away? And then, yeah, like father, like son. That's another favorite.
Oh God,
line. Like father, like son. So good.
It's my least favorite line.
How could you? It's beautiful. Yeah. It's gorgeous.
It's way too on the nose.
No, it's not on the nose enough. It should be up the nose. It could go even further.
Take out the line. We get the point. We don't need.
No, we love it. We love it. And so yeah, cutting that is just such a disservice, I think, to his character. And then also having James Corden as the Baker, as the narrator, it plays into what I said earlier about how I don't like that the movie is very on the nose about the exploration of like parents and children, and the fact that the movie ends with him telling the story to like his newborn child alongside the two kids that he's now adopted. I'm like, no. I think it's a lot more beautiful when it plays out as it does on stage, where the ghost of his wife just says, tell him the story. It's this beautiful, intimate moment between him and his kid, where he's like trying to honor the memory of his wife, who he now appreciates even more because she's gone, and he's processing everything. And it's just between them, him and baby, because it's his moment. And
baby's still his kid. It's still his family, so he's not alone.
No, he's not. Exactly. No one is alone.
No one is.
But alone. I like it being between him and the baby, and being a special moment at the end that we have to reach, instead of it being the through line like it is in the film, which I don't care for. I also feel like the movie would have been too bold of a choice, because Disney, I think, was very they let them do more things in this movie than I expected them to, like moments in the woods and the scene leading up to that, even though I think it could have gone further, but it's Disney. But I would have liked to have seen the narrator in some capacity, and to have the movie have gone super meta and like kill the narrator on screen.
I would have just enjoyed a narrator. I didn't understand the logic behind doing it. It didn't make any sense why we couldn't have had a narrator in the movie. After seeing it in the stage production, I was like, this seems like a pivotal. I think that's what I'm getting at. Like, okay, so I was going to get into this. The movie is not nearly as cheeky as the stage production. And I understand when you go to see a stage production, there is this whole element of the audience
with
is
the audience.
there,
Yeah.
and we acknowledge that sometimes, right? Like there's just this element of that. But there was no reason to cut that tie in the movie. So yeah, that was something that when I watched the stage production really gave it like more arteries than the movie had. It just gave it more like life and depth. And also the mild choices, little tiny things like the guy pushing her instead of whacking her on the head, like it's a violent act to hit somebody on the head. We chose to change that to pushing her down and she hit her head. And like, is she unconscious? Is she dead? We don't find out till later, right? Like it's very soft stuff, right? Rapunzel never gets stepped on by a giant in the movie. She just rides off into the sunset. That's a big change. So a lot more death in the stage production.
Well, yeah, it totally changes the witch's arc, I think, if Rapunzel dies versus if she just leaves her.
It does, but it also like changes the whole feeling of like people are dying, right? People are dying around us. That's not that. I didn't feel that in the movie. When I saw the movie, I didn't feel this whole overwhelming death thing. When I'm watching the stage production, I'm like, holy crap, people are dying.
Everyone's dying, and everyone should die. Everyone needs to. Oh, what a terrible soundbite to have on the internet of me. Unless you're the witch, exactly. But I feel like the act one or in the movie, the first chunk of the movie is her dealing with, I don't want my kid to leave me. And it's just kind of a rehash of that when she does leave her instead of the weight of you're dead now because I over-coddled you.
Yeah. Yeah. And this whole thing of like, she's running around crying. That didn't happen. The princes, let's get into that too. The princes got the shaft in the freaking movie. Okay. Like their roles are diminished and they're made. I would argue this is true in the stage production, but more so like they're bimbos without depth in the movie. They're bimbos with depth in the stage production.
Okay.
Yeah.
And like I enjoy a bimbo with depth. That's how you get Legally Blonde. Okay. Like I want a bimbo with depth. That's what I enjoy. So like when I saw how much more storyline we could have gotten out of the princes, especially when you had freaking Chris Pine at your disposal, who's a fantastic actor and can sing. And I saw this guy, like both the guys who acted the princes in this production were fantastic. One of them looked like he was Zac Efron's uncle. I was like, Jesus Christ, this guy looks like Zac Efron. It's crazy. But yeah, I mean, you know who I'm talking about. You can tell between the two. I think it was Rapunzel's prince. I really wish he had been Cinderella's prince.
He was the Beast in the Toronto production of Beauty and the Beast, like the original in the 90s. So I saw him as the Beast as a kid, evidently. I was autographed.
I would love to see him as human Beast. That's fantastic. I would have loved if he was Cinderella's prince in this production, to be honest.
Oh, I love Cinderella's prince in this production.
Deep set eye. I didn't enjoy that at all.
Oh, but, Robert Westenberg. We love Robert.
I like Robert. The other guy. Flip-flop those guys. But yeah, when I saw how much more depth those guys could have had, even down to tiny little lines that were cut when he's talking to her post makeout sesh, we'll say that like
I have to leave you now.
But he says something. He says something about life is just a matter of moments, and he goes, and I must go on to my next.
Yeah, this is just a moment in the woods, our moment, shimmering and lovely and sad.
Leave the
moment, just be glad.
That in the movie.
Matt. It's not just lyrically. I think he has a dialogue with.
Yes, he says, "I must leave you."
But there's more to it. I think he might.
I'm getting there. I must leave you. Okay.
There's I'd have to.
Will we meet each other again in the woods? No, then he goes straight into singing.
No. Oh, does he?
Yeah.
I think it's in there, but he does tell her like, "I have another moment I must move on to," or something like. There's a couple of lines or 3 lines that he doesn't get in the movie that I think actually lend him credence in this, and it's a different prince. I think they switched the princes out because Rapunzel's prince is already rode off.
No, it's the same prince. She always
is it the same
messes
guy
around with Cinderella's.
Okay.
Except
So
the movie glosses over the fallout between Cinderella and the prince afterwards. Like the scene is still kind of there.
yes, I was
But it
going to get
doesn't
into
hit
that.
as well as it does on stage. Like the scene on stage is one of my favorite scenes from a writing stance.
I feel like in the play, he tries to get her back more than he does in the movie. Again, leading to bimbo with no depth. Like he's still, the end result is the same. Like he's still the same person, but like how we get there is a little different, and what we see of him and his efforts and everything. And I think that's all very valid, and it's very sad that was
it's relatability.
Away. Yeah, that was taken away in the movie. So when I saw this, that made me very happy, because I don't want to dislike those characters. I always want to think that every character has a reason for doing whatever they're doing, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you don't, that's how you become evil. If you don't have a reason for whatever you're doing.
Psychopathic, but
yeah. There we go.
Yeah.
And I think the movie does the movie might have cut my favorite line of Cinderella's Prince is when Cinderella asks something like, I guess I'm not your only love, am I? And then on stage she responds with, I love you, I do. And
yes,
I love those lines.
But he admits on his own.
Yeah.
In the movie, she has to pursue him.
Right.
In the stage production, he is he goes, yes, I love you, I do, but and he just admits it on his own.
Yes.
Yeah.
And part of me is as happy and as content and as happy as I've ever been, yet there remains a part of me that continually wants more.
Yeah, and they have something like that in the movie, which is fine. But again, I do think the princes, there's a lot more there to give them. And I will let me just say, Cinderella's prince might be one of the most sexually charged characters in all of like writing Broadway literature. Him and Lestat might be like, they're up there. So
who's Lestat? Remind me again. Who's
the vampire?
Oh,
vampire.
Who's Lestat?
Oh, from the interview. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, there's a musical. There's a musical about Lestat.
There is actually, and it's not fabulous, but it's good.
But it exists. That's all it takes. That's all you need. That's all you need.
It's good.
Yeah. So well, I guess we're talking about Cinderella's prince. Let's talk about the wolf. Let's go.
Oh,
Jeanette, I feel like you have thoughts on the wolf. What are your thoughts on the wolf?
Nobody warned me.
About the thing.
You watch the movie, and he's in a pimp outfit. Okay, like he's in a pimp suit. He's in a legit pimp suit in the movie, and you're like, "That's funny. I get the reference. I get why this is an analogy. It's an analogy. It's very
no analogies
soft.
on the stage show, Jeanette. We don't.
No analogies in the stage show.
Yeah.
Let me just tell you.
On the nose.
They Donald Duck the wolf in the stage production. He has no pants, and he is anthropomorphic. And if you understand what I mean, it's not a wolf bottom.
You got
it's
human
a man
parts.
bottom. So I'm just trying to be kind here. Go watch the production, and don't turn up the definition if you have children in the room, because
do not enhance.
Nobody warned me that the wolf is just out here. He's just swinging in the wind,
living his best life.
And that, from what Matt tells me, was not even the most
it was bigger
version.
I'll find it later and send it to both of you. There's a TikTok, because that guy he's a professor at some theater program in the States. One of his students has been interviewing him for TikToks, and she had a full TikTok about that. She was like, was it bigger when it started? He was like, yeah, and it was too much. And so every performance, they scaled the costume back until it was just right. So what we see is like the small version.
I'd love to know who worked on that and who decided that was just enough. Because it's just strange. It's distracting. I don't know that I would have made that choice.
Oh my God. So in the 2002 revival, they added a second wolf. So both princes.
I thought you were going to say they added a second something else. And
no. Well, technically they did just attach to another person. So they added a second wolf. What? And so it turns into a Hello Little Girl duet, where the two of them
hello.
Yeah. Yeah, and one of them decides to go after the three little pigs. The other one goes after Little Red. But I remember the Tony Award performance of that year. They were like doing an interview with the costume designer, and she said, "Yeah, so when I designed the wolf costume, I picked a very specific fabric that looks like hair that could be on a wolf, but it could just as easily be on a man."
I don't care for this at all. None of this makes me feel comfortable or happy.
That's why it's such a short scene at the beginning of the show. Then it's over.
I gotta tell you though, on that note, like I do think like I don't know, like I don't know that I would have picked anybody else but Johnny Depp to play this role in the movie. It's very interesting to me that it's a dual cast role in like any other production, but in this one they were like, you know what? Call Johnny Depp. Let's see if he can do it. It's very interesting to me because isn't it dual cast in all the other productions as well? Like the Wolf is
Like,
not a
traditionally, it's not specified that you have to do it, but most productions do it.
But right, so like it's just interesting to me. I'm like, why in the movie did we not use the same gentleman that like we couldn't have used either of the princes? I don't know. It was just interesting to me, but I'm grateful because I quite enjoy that wolf. I do not enjoy the stage wolf. However, if Chris Pine had been if the movie had done the same thing that the stage production did and also dual cast, I just don't know that I could have made it through that movie without leaving for a little bit. So, I mean, you know, I just, that's...
Wait a minute.
Okay.
Okay, I don't know.
You know.
I thought Depp also was good.
Sure. Can we have? Oh, we're gonna do the dual wolves. Can we have Depp and?
Is that the ultimate? Is that?
Can we have Depp and Pine in the wolf outfit?
Oh my god!
Same outfit and two different outfits.
The original casting, actually, Chris Pine was originally supposed to be Rapunzel's prince, and Gyllenhaal was going to be Cinderella's prince, and then Jake dropped out to do another movie that no one's heard of, which I guess after seeing Into the Woods, maybe he made the right choice. But then Chris Pine
what was it?
Up.
What was the other
Prince
movie?
of
Was it
Egypt.
Jarhead or something? No, Jarhead was been out for thousands of years before that point.
But yeah,
I'm so old, don't pay any attention.
Sure. And yeah, then that's when Meryl Streep said, "Hey, cast this guy from Vanya and Sonia, Masha and Spike," which was on Broadway at the time, as Rapunzel's prince. And then Streep got the blonde guy the job, and then he got to be in Disney's Aladdin, and now who knows what he's doing.
Oh, is that who was he in Aladdin?
He's the prince that like meets Jasmine before Aladdin, the really weird, like Swedish blonde one. Yeah, before Prince Ali. Yeah. He's funny. He's funny in that movie. He's fine. But yeah, the wolf. What a character. What a character.
Great character.
He is a great character. I'm trying to think, what are the other double castings that we have? Well, the narrator and the mysterious man. I think that's the double casting situation that makes the most sense.
It does, and it's the one. Oh my
And
god, they didn't double cast anybody in the freaking movie, which is
I know. Well, I think double casting is weird in movies. I don't know that always works as well because
I think Eddie Murphy would
Eddie
disagree.
Murphy. Yeah, it's true. I mean, if Eddie Murphy had played the wolf and the prince, that's all we need. Can you imagine?
Yes.
Yes, it would have been great. It would have been so good.
I was about to make a statement that's not good.
Okay, moving on. Is there anything else we want to talk about the wolf or Little Red?
Sure. I mean, there's lots there that we haven't really touched on. I mean,
let's go touch it.
There's definitely a kind of expanding off of the costuming of the wolf. There is a sexual element to the wolf, and it's interesting and weird, if you will, but it is interesting the pairing this sort of or layering sexuality on the relationship between the hungry wolf and the little girl going to grandmother's house. So yeah, there's something that's I think that's interesting. I don't necessarily personally see it as pedophilic in the sense that I don't see the wolf as wanting to be a
I think it's making a statement just in general about young girls venturing out into the world and being preyed upon.
Interesting.
I think it's a very simple surface level message. I've never been confused about that, especially I think maybe because in the movie they put him in a freaking pimp outfit. It's not confusing. This young girl is going off on her own and she has been told by her mother this song if I've cried during a lot of these songs, but there's therapeutic songs in this movie, play, whatever, like both. And it's the Moments in the Woods and it's Red songs. It's the Baker's Wife and Red songs are the very therapeutic, like freaking like, oh my God, yes songs. And Red songs are, I mean, I would say, if you have a daughter who has any interest in musical theater, you should shove this down her throat so that it's just in there in her head. Because honestly, like, hindsight, this is the damn truth. Like, get out into the world, and this is the truth. So, like, there's no, I don't even think there's any fluff on it. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Like, my parents said to do this. I tried to do this. There was this really cool thing, and I got distracted, and I did some stuff, and now I'm trying to get back to the path. Like, it's not hard. It's pretty cut and dry.
Nice is different than good.
Yeah.
It's everything in her song, especially again for a young woman. Like, please, like, if you need therapy, listen to it. If you need to learn how to parent your child, listen to it. Like, I don't know what to tell you. There's a million things you can learn. It's so straightforward. Like, there's no subliminal text. It's pretty, like, especially if you watch it with the visuals, it's pretty, straightforward. I think it's very touching, and it's, hindsight again. Like, I would say this is like story of my life. Hello.
It's also interesting to me that resonates so strongly from a female perspective, knowing that it was written by two guys. Like, I don't think there was...
Right. It astounds me. Yeah. But again, who else does that? Is freaking Alan Menken and what's his face? Ashford or
Howard Ashman?
There you go, Ashman. Yeah. I was going to say Ashford. It's always Ashman. But yeah, like, same thing.
Yeah.
And I think it's just they are raised. I did read Sondheim's background. He was raised, like, he had a strong feeling towards his mother. It wasn't positive, but like strong feelings towards feminine figures. Being raised around other feminine figures who aren't your mother, whatever. Like, just a lot of input from feminine side. So, and it comes out.
Yeah, and like, I'm not sure how much Danielle Federer, or whatever her name is, Red, was involved in the creation process, but just little bits that I've read about Joanna Gleason's involvement. I know that she had a lot of input in Moments in the Woods, at least. And so I do think that there was a female perspective, at the very least, from her informing that character. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was a similar process for all of them. Yeah, I think Sondheim said something about one of the only times he's taken input or something from an actor was when Joanna Gleason said, "I feel like my character's in the wrong story." And then he fully had that as one of, like, the turnaround moments for The Baker's Wife. And this is ridiculous. What am I doing here? I'm in the wrong story.
I will also say, as a middle-aged woman, if you find yourself the object of attention from anyway, you feel like at that point, right, you're like, no, you don't mean me, not me. This is this is not right. Like, it's imposter syndrome, right? Like,
yeah.
And
right and wrong don't matter in the woods.
Well, that's like, I mean, I feel like that's when you start getting into their views on their views, whatever, on again, on adulterous situations, like what the man feels, what the woman feels, how the woman feels afterwards. You've made me feel alive. Goodbye. Like,
well, that was great for me.
So, and I will say too, like, going back to Red, I think Red and Jack are these beautiful realizations of, like, puberty, of going out into the world. Like, Jack's talking, about finding out before and after the sky, which I think the sky stands for something else that begins with an S and has 3 letters. It's I think that they both are on their pubescent journeys into the world, as it were. So
Just everything is represented in this show. It's so good. Another reason I claim I love this show is that I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think to some degree every type of relationship is represented. Like there's mother-daughter, mother-son, father-daughter, father-son, brother, sister, sister-sister, etc. Like even if it's a little bit like just the stepsisters, I think they're such a great example of characters that don't have a ton of stage time, but are so, well, I'm saying this not as a girl and not as someone who has a sister, but I feel like the little bit that we see of the two of them is very true to sisterly sibling relationships.
Even the Baker and Cinderella, you could potentially argue there's something there to be said about a sister-sister relationship. But
the Baker and Cinderella?
The Baker's wife.
Oh, Baker's wife. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And yeah, so I think just the power of this is that you're always going to be able to latch onto a character or a relationship that's meaningful to you. And it's going to change throughout your lifetime, which is just so good. One thing we haven't really talked about is the weird turnaround between Act 1 and Act 2. I think that's one of the biggest criticisms that people have of this written material is that there's such a strong divide between the two of them. And like to the point where a lot of people seeing the show for the first time leave at intermission because they think it's over. How does everyone feel about that? About how Act 1 is just wrapped up so neatly and then Act 2 is entirely its own thing. Like some productions even cut Act 2 because they think Act 1 is enough.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know. I'm very much against that. I think it's terrible too. I personally think it's genius. I think it's part of the reason that it doesn't work as well in a movie because it uses the two-act structure so brilliantly just to set up one thing and then have it almost repeated, but in an antithetical way to what we had in Act 1. And I love it. But I want to hear everyone else's thoughts. How do you feel about this structure?
So I feel like coming out of the movie, I feel like the movie didn't take advantage of that. And I did wonder that going into the stage production. I was like, it must be longer. It must have something else. And it does. And in my opinion, it turns it into the happily ever after. But is it like that? If you don't cut that into two pieces, it doesn't turn into that. Here's your happily ever after. And then here's what happens after, right? Like this is literally what happens after. And I think that's one thing if you want to look at it from like the whole fairy tale alternative universe type thing. I do think also that the two parts show you the repercussions of the decisions. These characters they talk about how they can't make decisions. Again, something they talk about in the stage production more than they do in the movie. They can't make decisions. They can't make choices. And they do. And then here's your repercussions. Here's what comes from that, right? It's also, if Alex, to go back to Alex's Bible reference, if you want to look at it, no, I'm not kidding. Like as a New Testament and Old Testament, like, or Old Testament, New Testament, like it's way like the Old Testament is way less fire and brimstone and death. Like, and then the new one, it's like everybody's freaking dying. Here you go. Here's what's happening. No,
I think he flipped it. I think the Old Testament.
Old Testament is more violent,
more fire. Yeah.
See, I'm thinking of the Revelations, right?
Oh, right. I keep forgetting about Act 3. I keep forgetting about
the world's ending. Everything's
crashing
down around us.
Yeah, got you. Yeah. But in terms
that's
of
what I'm getting at. Maybe that's
that's
the southern part of me. I guess I'm like that's. That's what they teach us.
Yeah, no, I made it to grade 8 in Catholic school and went to a public school for high school. But the most they told us about Revelations was, you're too young, don't read it yet.
Oh yeah, scary. No, I'm sorry. I went to Baptist church as a small child. They're like, no, here it is. So yeah, I mean, like, I do think if you want to cut it up that way, like it's like oh sure, would you like a tied up little package? Here it is. Here's the real story. Here's the real repercussions of like what happens, right? So, yeah, I think that I like that more. I do think the movie rushed it, and I think that's why we get the prince's stories are cut in half. And I think everybody's less fleshed out, other than the characters that have already been fleshed out as a part of that, as them cutting that.
No, I found it so much more jarring revisiting the movie this week for how they transition from what on stage is Act 1 into Act 2. It just feels so weird. Like
it's the wedding scene, right?
Yeah,
it makes sense. It does. They do it okay, but then you're like, whoa, everybody. There hasn't been any time lapse. It's like next day, and then Here it is.
Yeah, and something's so weird about when they go back into the woods and they just find Reggie's like, oh well, I guess Granny's dead, and like I don't just not being able to sit with it with the same amount of time that you do with the prologue in Act 2, I think is detrimental a little bit to what it's setting up, because I think they were trying to fit it into a 3-act structure since it's a movie, and that is so counterintuitive to what I think makes it work.
Because they didn't have the narrator either. It doesn't It doesn't help.
You need the narrator, but yeah, Alex, what do you think of the structure?
I don't really have any profound thoughts. Like I generally like it's like I don't when I watch a musical slash a play, like I by default expect at least 2 acts.
Yeah.
So when intermission hits, I'm never confused typically. And so like yeah, if I try to imagine, okay, what if I didn't know that there was a second act and that first act ended, how would I feel? I'd probably feel somewhat empty. Like I'd probably feel like it was like everything was too tidy, too neat. Right. Like the stories that I like, it wouldn't be a satisfying story. It's like, oh, I was expecting some like twist and turn, and instead you gave me, you know, everybody getting what they ultimately were seeking in a like granted in I guess in a fun way, like, you know, Cinderella and the baker and, you know, Jack and whatnot, but still in a fun but brief way. Like I don't know, like but I mean I can't really I don't know, I can't really say that for sure, because I can't make myself forget what I know about Act 2.
Yeah.
I can't really,
you know, things that. Now, many valuable things.
Yeah. And so it's
Vince did the 1-act version.
The first half of it was in grade 8. The show ended.
Yeah.
So it had the
happy ending. I mean, they got the baby. The Jack and his mom are rich.
Yeah, well, I'm curious how Vince like remembers, if he remembers what he thought of that show when it was just the one, because I mean, unless he already knew that there was a second act, or he knew, or like even if he knew, like I'm curious if he had that perspective at one point, if he can remember what his thoughts were, if he had just been exposed to the first act as a sort of standalone thing, even if he knew there was a second act. Maybe he didn't know it, like he hadn't seen it yet, whatever. I'd be curious if he has an insight on that, because that's
Vince, weigh in.
Yeah,
right now. Vince is typing right now. Go. Like talking about now, I'm thinking I had a similar experience to what I think people's first time with Into the Woods could potentially be when I was watching Breaking Bad. I've only watched it straight through once, but I think when I got to the end of the second last season, season 4. Are there 5 seasons of Breaking Bad? Let's say there are. Right. Yeah. So when I got to the end of season 4, the season 4 finale, it wrapped up in a place where more or less I felt like the series could end here and everyone is kind of in a decent place. I have closure and I'm happy, even though Walter is a drug maker, dealer, and has killed a bunch of people. Like, he seems okay. The family seems okay. We seem okay. I don't think I need a season 5. Then I see season 5 and it just all makes sense. And I was in a place of, oh, wow, if this had ended at season 4, we would have lost what seems to be the point of what the series was building towards.
Yeah.
And I think it's the exact same thing of Into the Woods, as it were.
I agree.
Like, if you don't have No One Is Alone, if you don't have Children Will Listen,
it almost gives you the option to, like, do you want a happy ending? Is that the kind of person you are? Sure, here you go. You can stop here. If you would like to actually learn a lesson and know what this is supposed to tell you, you should watch the second half. Like, you can carry on.
So yeah, how do we feel about how do I even word this? I think I want to just discuss the fact that it's so well crafted, with everybody's decisions having a terrible payoff, or having, like, leading to the giant showing up. I think the fact that they all team up to kill the giant sits with me in a weird place, because, like Red says, we're killing somebody, but then Cinderella says, well, it's not somebody, it's a giant who's been doing harm. Like,
but that's the point, right? The younger generation is saying this is wrong. I always thought that was interesting. The younger generation is going, I don't know if we should be doing this. And then the generation right before them is like, I can see your point, but You know, and I feel like that's true of a lot of things in this
Mhm.
world. The younger generation is like, this is wrong. We shouldn't do this. And they're like, nah, it's fine. Like, you
Well, it
know,
speaks to the grayness, right? Like as you get older, maybe, you know, the wisdom, the experience, you know, gives you an insight into the nuance that when you're younger you don't see. So you can kind of,
yeah.
you know, you tend to have you're quick to feel strongly about one position or the other. But as you get older, not to say that most old people don't feel strongly about one position or the other, but in theory, there's the theory of wisdom dictates that as you gain experience and wisdom, you tend to see the world in a more nuanced and slash gray way rather than a black and white.
I think the witch sees all the gray. Like I relate it to
Oh, that's
that
interesting
line.
because
Yeah,
the witch.
like the witch says towards the beginning of Act Two, it's kind of the same mentality or the same idea as what I think is explored with the giant when she calls out Red and says, "Why are you so squeamish? How many wolves have you killed? A wolf's not the same. Ask a wolf's mother." So good.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
good.
they didn't, and they cut that from the movie too. Like, there's so many. I do feel like this suffers from like there were. I understood cutting the steward, like his line, like
I don't
whatever,
make policy, I just carry it out.
and that was in there.
Oh yeah, it
Like,
was.
and you could have freaking like. I feel like you could have cut a lot of the stepsister. I don't know. There's some stuff you could have cut that they didn't cut, and they cut some stuff that I feel was really important to like
Mhm.
telling us about what these characters needed to teach us.
Yeah, and even with the stuff that they kept in, I feel in the movie they didn't give it the importance or certain moments the importance that were merited. Like with Christine Baranski as the stepmother, when she decides that she's leaving, it felt rushed and it didn't seem to have the weight I think that moment needs to have.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. So, oh wait, hold on. Here we go. So let's jump into the chat. Vince has responded. At first, most of us only knew of the first act, but by the time rehearsals were over, we had also seen the full show on DVD, and we were all as you should be. Everyone should be jonesing to Act Two. Very much like Sunday in the Park with George, I prefer Act Two. Actually, no, I'll agree. I'm also like Alex. I'm an Act Two apologist. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I stopped short of actually.
Well, you said you're an Act Two apologist.
Oh no, I am. No, I was gonna say that I stopped short of like preferring Act Two to Act One, but that's probably not true. I probably do still ultimately prefer Act Two, just because. Why? Well,
Why?
because I just find the George's narrative in Act 2. I guess I just find it more relatable personally. I find that the struggling artist trying to find originality and sort of direction is more relatable personally than the the successful artist. It's like successful, the artist who has a clear vision, knows exactly what they want to do and how they want to do it, and is kind of letting the other relationships and aspects of life kind of fly by the wayside and suffer, but for the sake of his art. That's not really, I wish I was that artist. I wish I could just dedicate myself to the vision and screw the people around me.
Yeah.
But in all the ways, but still with the finger in every way, always the finger. But beep beep beep. But no, that's not me.
Okay.
So
no, there it is. Yeah, I think I prefer Act Two for similar reasons that I like and love Act Two in Into the Woods. I think Act Two and Sunday is really interesting when you compare it to what Act One was. Like, I'm interested and engaged, especially with the double casting and just seeing how much everything shifts in 100 years' time for artists, especially for the creative process, for how the economics of it are different when, like, are you making art now for money versus for the art of making art, etc., etc. And yeah, like we said during the Sunday show, I think the double casting also lends itself to interesting possibilities, just to see how the same type of person can either thrive or not thrive under different time periods and circumstances.
Although that's not what they're doing in the show.
No, it's not what they're doing, but it's what I would do if I directed it. It would be amazing. So there we are. Yeah. I also just think the passage of time is
cool it's interesting.
Concept. Yeah. What do we have here? Elizabeth is saying, I love in the junior version, it closes off the loose end that would lead to Act Two with the stage direction. Oh, I love this. Apparently in the junior version, the Act Two ends with the baker's wife picking up the bean that Cinderella tosses away. So we don't even get the question of, oh no, what about that beanstalk that's going to grow? So
man,
good job. Attention to detail. And then Vince also says, instead of a model cow, we had an unfortunate actress play the role. Coincidentally, she grew up to become a Playboy model. Good for her.
I enjoy that story, but why in the world would you put a human in that role? Like that doesn't make any
Why wouldn't
sense.
you? Have you not seen the cow
There's
costume?
been a whole legacy of like human Milky Whites.
Why? That's unnecessary.
It's so stupid. Well, it's because people like the novelty of having a funny cow.
Of having a woman bent over on all fours? That sounds
doesn't have to be a woman.
really great.
Yeah, both productions I was in used a cow costume. Like you couldn't tell it was a man or a woman. You just knew it was a person dressed up as a cow on crutches. So they were like hunched over the whole time, walking on like basically arm stilts. It was hilarious. Wow. Yeah. The Broadway revival did that in 2002, and the cow stole the show, which started this terrible tradition of people trying to be really clever and funny with Milky White, and Milky White becomes a scene stealer, which I don't like because it's not about Milky White. The more recent revival has a puppet that I was prepared to not like, but I loved. So there
I
it
still
is.
prefer stage recording Milky White. You know?
Oh yeah, just give me a statue of Milky White.
Milky White, yeah, plastic statue.
Yeah, to put a human in that role seems highly unnecessary. I can't abide by that. I don't like that at all.
Oh, see, Vince knows Cinderella's dad. At least Milky White.
Yeah, well, they just cut him out of the movie. They're like, no, this is a Disney movie. No parents make it out alive.
Yeah, that poor kid had 2 lines in the whole show. Yeah, it's I always wanted a son. I think that's the only full sentence he says. I always wanted a son. Oh no, and he says something in First Midnight. I can't remember. Something snarky.
Yeah, the better to do, the farther the do.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Oh my gosh, it's so good. That's another thing. The movie cut out the midnights, which it would have been weird, I guess, in a film, but I adore the midnights. First midnight, second midnight. It sets up the last midnight.
I also think it keeps us in touch with what the characters' storylines are a little bit more deftly. They're spelling it out for you a little bit more. Yeah. But I mean, I understand cutting that from a movie because you need time situations, you know?
Yeah, no, and it gives you, I just love the midnights because that's where you get so many of those like golden one-liner parables that we talked about earlier. Like the slotted spoons don't hold much soup. No knot unties itself.
My favorite is the slotted spoon catches the potato.
Can catch the potato. Every knot was one straight rope. Depending on how it's done, Milky White can be a really fun physical comedy role, especially in a kid's production when you're scrambling for roles with no built-in ensemble. That's fair. I have heard of productions where people are trees, and I feel so bad for those productions. Yeah. It's a waste of everyone's time.
No small roles.
Yeah, you're right. And another thing I don't like is
if you're in Wizard of Oz, that tree's got a lot to do.
That's true. We do love the trees in Wizard of Oz. Oh, geez. So I guess one thing we haven't really spoken about is No One Is Alone / Children Will Listen. I think those are 2 of the most like prominent songs in the world of musical theater that tend to get covered a lot, that resonate a lot with people. What are our thoughts on those specific pieces? Like, I think No One Is Alone is gorgeous and just sneaks up on you in such a wonderful way. Like coming out of that scene where Little Red is like, why are we killing someone? Mother would be very disappointed. Mother cannot guide you. And the movie cuts out my favorite verse, which is when Cinderella goes straight into Sometimes People Leave You halfway through the woods. Like, I know we get that in the movie when Baker's wife comes back, but there's just something so gorgeous on stage when Cinderella sings it, especially in the original production. I think Kim Crosby, I think that's her name. Like, her performance in that song just gets me every time. Actually, her performance overall, I think her as Cinderella is a highlight in that production. Like, she just does such a beautiful transformation from ingenue into now I'm a person who has seen things and knows what I know what I want. But No One Is Alone is just so gorgeous and I adore it. But that's all I have to say about it right now. What do others think about that song? Or Children Will Listen?
Will listen, won't listen.
Who knows?
So children must listen, children will listen, whatever. I keep trying to find my foothold in it, and I can't. Like, the song is touching. The part that gets me is children are something that you love and then lose. Is that what it is?
Children will only grow from something you love to something you lose.
Yes. So that's the most touching line of it all for me. I still can't really find like again, I think maybe it's a surface song like Red's is, but I'm just not commiserating with it the same way. Um, but for No One Is Alone, I think that that song, if you've lost anybody that you care about in your life, I don't see how you can't connect with that song in some capacity.
Well said.
Yeah, I also think, I mean, that's definitely part of that song. I think also what's part of the song is just the it kind of runs in my mind counter to Matt's take on the end of the show. But yeah, in my
How dare
mind,
you.
the power of that song is also that in spite of the kids being orphaned and the baker being widowed,
Widowed.
and all the, in spite of the sort of clearly unfortunate situations or the suffering and harm that the characters have experienced, that there's still connection and community and love. That's the big part of the song for me, where and yeah, so I feel like the solidarity, the solidarity of like the human experience, the universality of the experience the characters have, where it's like, you're because you've lost somebody, because you've suffered, because your life is tragic, does not mean you are alone. If the character, the most lonely character in the show is the witch. And that's by virtue of two things. One is that the witch is an outcast, and we can speculate as to why the witch is the outcast. But two is clearly because of the way the witch is operated, right? The way the witch, deals with Rapunzel, for example, and then loses Rapunzel. Right? That's relatively clearly understood to be a consequence of the witch's actions and behavior. So yeah. So to me, No One Is Alone is a strong part of that song, or value of that song thematically, is that sort of, at the end of the day, these characters have all suffered, but they're not alone, and there's still love and
I also
connection.
think it speaks to chosen family. Like, even if you don't have any, blood family, chosen family, whether that's because you were outcast or because you were orphaned or whatever. I think that especially now with that becoming a known term, chosen family, right? Like
Yeah.
that's a thing. I think that's a very valid thing within that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's so
And
beautiful. Well, we haven't actually talked about the witch yet, and she's kind of come up in this past discussion, but let's do a deep dive into that character and what she is, who she is, what she represents. Yeah, what are everyone's opening thoughts on her? Why is she the way she is? Something that I find fascinating as I continually revisit it is just recognizing how damaged I think she is by her relationship with her mother, which is kind of weirdly reflective of the baker's daddy issues, especially since Last Midnight. Yeah, Last Midnight tends to get rewritten, I find, every time there's a revival or a new production. And so I have all of the different versions kind of conflated in my mind. I can't remember which one is actually right as of now, but some of them have focused so heavily on her like making peace or not peace with her mom, and it ends in some productions with her eating the beans so that she can become ugly again, and then her mom's ghost like comes out of the ground and pulls her down into hell or something so that she can be with her mom, and
That's
it
like
ends with her screaming like,
Carrie.
yeah,
Hey,
exactly.
Mom.
Mother, here I come. Well, the production I saw in Central Park. Oh yeah, I haven't spoken about how I was homeless in New York once to see this show in Central Park. It was a good time. In that production,
Sounds worse than it was.
No, it really doesn't. It sounds exactly as terrible as it was.
Well, no, it sounds like you were living in New York and you were homeless.
Oh yeah, no, you're right. You're right. I went to New York to see this production in Central Park, and I did not book a hotel and opted to sleep on the streets of New York for the 48 hours that I was there because it was cheaper than getting a hotel, and it was one of the worst decisions I've made in my adult life. But in that production, during Last Midnight, yeah. It ended with her mom crawling out of the ground covered in leaves and pulling her down to hell, as it were.
That's interesting.
It is. But like one of my favorite lines in the show of hers, which I used to think was just hilarious, but again, as I revisit, recognize that there's more underlying it, is when Rapunzel has her whole tirade. She's like, "What's wrong? You locked me in a tower, you deprived me, you did this, 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 and this, and because of you, I'm never going to be happy." And her response is just, "I was just trying to be a good mother." It's so
that's I have something to say about that line.
go.
Well, basically just that specifically to the production that is on YouTube, the pro shoot, that line to me is like it illustrates the fine line, and maybe not. So to me, it illustrates the fine line between comedy and tragedy that Into the Woods walks, where everything, every kind of thing that happens in the show is on its face tragic, but it's in the pro shoot especially, it's played a lot of it is played comedically, if not most of it. And that's one of those lines that like you could have a witch that says that line. Like there's more than two options, but in general it's like you have the Bernadette delivery of, which is clearly comedic, like, "I was just trying to be a good mother," you know, and which is great, it's funny, it's awesome. But there's the total opposite of that, where it's like genuinely like, what can I tell you? Like that was what I was trying to do. I'm literally, that's the only way I know how to take care of you is what I did. And so anyway, and that was just something that I think that moment really kind of made that like point of the show obvious to me, of like, this is kind of a line that I can easily see being played totally the opposite of the way it has been played in this case. And, you just expand that to the whole show. But anyway.
Yeah. What else do I want to say about the witch? Why do we think...
the mother. I mean, sorry, I would not to interrupt, but I think that's an interesting thing you're pointing out, because in the show, there's not like, are there lines or lyrics that ever reference her mother?
They talk about her mother. She does. She says that the mother's the one that cursed her.
Yeah.
But no, she doesn't
do what?
have...
To be ugly?
Yeah, she said, "My mother warned me that I would be punished if I ever were to lose any of the beans."
At the beginning of the show, and she's
in the prologue during her backstory.
Okay.
Like, how was I to know what your father had also hidden in his pocket? You see, when I inherited the garden, my mother had warned me that I would be punished if I ever were to lose any of the beans. Beans, the special beans.
Okay.
I let him go. I didn't know he'd stolen my beans. I was watching him crawl back over the wall, and then bang, crash, and the lightning.
And that's the only reference in the show.
No, and then later, whenever she's turning back, I think she says, "Mother, turn me," whatever. Like I think she says
in Last Midnight, I think it comes back.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've straight up just never paid attention to those moments. So that's interesting to me, like because I've always interpreted the witch. So when it comes to like her past, her backstory, and specifically when it comes to the way she disappears, the way she gets pulled or falls or whatever, that's always been mysterious to me. Like there's always been this element of like, I don't know definitively what's going on, and I'm just kind of like, I've treated it as sort of like a abstract thing of like, oh, the witch is leaving this plane in some way that she's on the one hand, there's an element of like, she knows it's happening, like she knows it's going to happen, it's like predetermined or whatever, like she and then on the other hand, it's still, there's an element of she's suffering maybe just because she screams when she leaves. But then different productions and the movie and different like productions do it differently in terms of how they whether it's hands or whether the witch just fall. Like in the Buffalo one that we saw, Matt, she just fell, right?
No, they brought hand puppets out, and the hand puppets took her off stage.
Oh, okay. They shuffled off sideways.
The hand puppets.
Don't look here.
Yes.
All right. Okay, that now that you said that reminds me. So, and then the movie, she like just whirls. She falls in the pit.
She falls into the tar pit. She does a big swirl. Let me just say this:
Yeah.
The last midnight in the movie is, to me, one of the most beautiful scenes of a musical or just a movie
yeah.
in general. Like,
Oh, they got Last Midnight right,
I
100%.
that scene is so stinking beautiful, and Meryl Streep was the best cast. I
Mhm.
mean, you really can't miscast Meryl Streep, but like it was fantastic. And like that scene, I could watch that song over and over again. Whereas there
Oh.
are songs I really love that, like, maybe I don't necessarily love the delivery of, but I really like the song itself.
Mhm.
Whereas, like, I will say this, all of Red's songs, I much prefer how they are on stage, where it's just her in a spotlight. Like,
Yeah.
they're so much more impactful when it's not with the scenery and the everything around it.
And
You know,
not
like
singing to James Corden.
I just did not like him in this movie at all.
No, and like that's the thing that I really didn't like about how how the movie treated Red Song and Jack Song Giants. Like you said, I think it's so much better when it's just a personal journey for them, just talking through. Like it's almost just like a really nice soliloquy. We get to see what they're thinking purely instead of them communicating with another person. Like, just wasn't a fan. Wasn't a fan. But what else I want to say? Oh, so Alex, what are your thoughts on why is the witch so fixated on getting the potion to be pretty again? I think it's kind of open to interpretation, or maybe it's just not. Maybe it's just as simple as she wants to be beautiful again. But what are your thoughts? Because I had a moment of discovery recently, but let's hear what you think first.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything super insightful. The way I've traditionally interpreted that is just in like an archetypal way, where yeah, she's ugly, and yeah, she just wants to be beautiful. Like, just what does that mean to just want to be beautiful? Obviously, there's baggage there, but in the witch's case, as I would say, the baggage. I've interpreted it as more like, because she's the witch and she's by definition this outcast that's shunned and feared or whatever. Her becoming beautiful is like a way to compensate for that. Now that I think about it, now I could just superficially add, or quickly add, like, maybe it's a way for her, it's another tool, like, for her to you know, whether it's relate to her daughter better, whether it's to be able to manipulate the villagers better, just, by, prettier people are people pay more attention to prettier people to an extent. I guess there's the inverse of that, where people won't think you're being, don't treat you seriously or take you seriously if you're too attractive and a woman. But yeah, there's yeah, it just boils down to she's an ugly witch and wants to, wouldn't mind not being an ugly witch, and maybe with a hint of pragmatism of, if I'm beautiful, I could maybe get my business done that much more efficiently.
Yeah, like I think the movie is more definitive, and the impression I get from rewatching the movie recently is that a big motivator is Rapunzel. Almost like she thinks that it'll solve her relationship with Rapunzel if she's not as ugly, because she just seems so, yeah, exactly. She just seems so proud to present her beautiful self to Rapunzel in the film. Like, oh, see, look, it's fine now. Now we can be together. But that doesn't
But
solve her
see,
problem.
I feel like she doesn't, because I feel like in
No?
both productions she forgets that she is younger and always goes,
Oh, true.
"Oh, yeah, I forgot. You won't know me." I almost feel the way I feel is that once she got her youth and her beauty back, she didn't give two stinking hoots about Rapunzel.
Really?
Like,
Interesting.
she was like, "We just need to stop the giant." At that point, I almost feel, and then she runs into Rapunzel, is like, oh yeah, yeah, I forgot you wouldn't know me now. I feel like after she gets her
Interesting, yeah.
youth and her beauty back, she's like worried about getting rid of the giant, and that's about it. I don't know. I could be wrong, but like I don't know.
Interesting. Well, I feel on stage, I can see that, I think, more so with this production. I've seen productions where the love for Rapunzel, the possessive love for Rapunzel, is definitely still there post beautification.
Transformation, yeah.
Like especially with the first round of Children Will Listen after Rapunzel dies. Like I saw a production where she's singing that to Rapunzel's corpse, basically. Like Rapunzel has just been stepped on, and so then she's singing it to like the dead body of her daughter.
I could see that being impactful.
Yeah.
It's interesting to make those choices though, like after that first production had,
established stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I feel like the first production, it took a long time for me to realize that Rapunzel got stepped on in this production.
Really?
Because it happened so quickly.
They even play a squish sound.
Oh yeah, I know, but the squish
which
sound
is
just
like
happens
kind
so
of
quickly.
morbid.
There's so much happening.
No, it's forgivable.
Yeah.
They don't
like,
it's not. They don't say like father, like son. They don't go Rapunzel was just stepped on. I can forgive you. They didn't try to.
See,
they didn't spell it out for us.
I know it needs to be spelled out. It needs to be on the nose for me.
Everything should be spelled.
That's what I need. That's all I need. Elizabeth is saying there's also the angle that if her ugliness is a curse inflicted by her mother, this isn't what she's supposed to look like. She was transformed, and it's understandable she wants her own appearance back. Yeah, and that plays into something else that I wanted to mention with the witch. I feel that from her perspective, her ugliness is the result of both her mother as well as the baker's father's actions.
Well, you could also see it as she became ugly right whenever she was granted a child, which I feel
that was the other. Like this guy left her ugly and with a kid.
I feel like a lot of women after they have a child don't feel attractive when they're raising a child. Like you just don't feel attractive.
Yeah, in this case, she just took the baby, but I can see that.
Sure, but like it's still motherhood, right? She started her motherhood at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. That's how I always interpreted that, was like mother, like when you become the angry mother, you like that's what you feel like.
Yeah, and this might be a question more so for Jeanette, though. Alex, you're welcome to weigh in. How do you feel about this character's portrayal in this show versus in Tangled, which is ultimately the same character? It's Rapunzel's mom, which I'm also realizing now. In Tangled, she also has a fixation on I need to stay young and beautiful.
What does she say? What's the song in Tangled?
Tangled? It's Mother Knows Best.
Mother Knows Best. Listen to your mother.
I genuinely feel like Mother Gothel is a better representation of a Rapunzel mother character. As far as I like the witch in Into the Woods, as far as her relationship to the other characters. Her relationship to Rapunzel is genuinely like my least favorite part of her part in this production. I think Mother Gothel has potentially a better song. And I think that she is a more balanced character. I see the care and the evil there. I see both the love and the evil there for
kind of a hot take.
Yeah. I don't know. I think she is a more well-rounded and balanced character.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from, Jeanette, because they're like, and continuing what you said with sort of once the witch becomes beautiful, she seems to not be interested in Rapunzel. The stage show doesn't give us a ton of live in our face content between the two characters. We have, and we have their moment in the tower for the and then we have when she runs into her after beautification. But yeah, I would say that like on the one hand, there is probably a good amount of like filler that the show is kind of asking us to do in terms of it gives us these glimpses, but from those glimpses, we're to kind of extrapolate and kind of fill in some more and say, okay, this is one night of many nights, like the witch. And like whether it's like, I don't know, is it just, what's the title of the song when she first singing to her about like there are
Stay With Me?
Yeah, stay with me. So like Stay With Me, like personally, in spite of what I just said, forgetting the title, that's one of my favorite songs in the show. Like I think it's a beautiful song, and I think it's a complex song that simultaneously shows sort of the witch's flaws and errors and misperceptions when it comes to Rapunzel and the way to raise her, but also that profound and genuine love and concern and obsession with taking care of her, and maybe on the unhealthy side, like it's not just a matter like her, and this is kind of in the gray area of like, well, is it still love? Like, it's not strictly a motherly love. It's also a like, I don't like, you're kind of my only friend. You're kind of the only, you're the only thing that like kind of makes me human. And it's not just about me wanting you to like be safe. It's also about me wanting not to risk losing you. If you, maybe there's that element of like, you know, when you go out into the world, you might find somebody who you like better than ugly, terrible me. So, but anyway, yeah, like all of that to say that I think like I see from the perspective that the show doesn't really give us a lot of time between the two characters. I can definitely see your interpretation. For my part, I kind of fill in those blanks, and I come out with a, like, when it comes to the after the post beautification sort of relationship, I kind of see that, I guess, as at that point the witch had resigned herself to being like, Rapunzel had run away, and that was kind of it. And I guess I didn't assume that was it in terms of like the witch didn't care enough to do more. I just more so it was like, no, Rapunzel effectively ran away from the witch, and the witch realized there was nothing she could do, so she moved on with her life in that regard. And then she was genuinely surprised to see Rapunzel when she ran into her, and then it all came back, you know. But anyway, as is my way to end my
But anyway, there it is. Yeah, when I saw it in Central Park, she was played by Donna Murphy, who's also Mother Gothel. So I'll always like, yeah.
Stop. That's amazing.
Yeah. She's the one who was pulled into the ground by the leaf monster.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. And the first night, I saw it 2 nights in a row. The first night she swallowed a bug while she was singing Last Midnight, so she started coughing. It was incredible. But still, it was still incredible. Yeah. Yeah. Oh. Do I have anything else to say before the game? Anything we didn't discuss in this musical before the game?
So much.
Certainly.
I know there's so much. Throw it at me. We're talking about this all day.
I know, right?
I mean, well, there is what the matter of what the witch threatens the baker with in terms of various things she could turn him into at the beginning of the show. Turn him into a frog or a chair. Or a you know, that's a fun little thing.
Which is, hey, did I miss this?
Yeah, no, she has a little bit of a seizure in this production.
Yeah, she has a bit of a fit. She goes, I could turn him into.
Don't do it, Alex. Don't do it.
Oh yeah, no, I saw that, but I thought that was intended. Was that not intended?
Oh, it is intended.
It's just no production has done it since
discussion.
No.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It is interesting.
Yeah.
And could inspire discussion.
I just assumed it was something that I didn't understand when she was doing it.
I don't think anybody understood. No one.
Some 80s thing that I didn't get. Some 80s Broadway thing that I didn't understand.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are generous and less generous interpretations, but yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah. Since then,
what she was doing.
I don't know what's written in the text. I think it says something like she goes into a trance or whatever. In the Vanessa Williams production, like 2002, she says, I could have turned him into a snake, then her hair turned into snakes. So I think I think they lean on snakes now. I think it's snakes.
Was it snakes in Buffalo?
I can't remember what she did in Buffalo. I think she just stopped talking.
Oh,
I think she did a joke. I don't think she did a joke. I think it was different though. I think she I could turn you in a thing or a thing. I forget. No,
I think it was that. She was like, or a thing, or and then she just kind of stared.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was. Or
yeah, and then they were like, "Is she okay?" And then she was like, after just enough time, then she went back into it.
Yeah. It's still a gimmick or whatever, but yeah, the Bernadette Peters gimmick is interesting.
It is. It is.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, Jeanette, I feel like you had a talking point.
No, I mean, I don't know. I'm saying there's so much stuff because I just I feel like every line from this production is something that is a talking point. It's just, I don't know. I feel like this thing, like you said this before, that who you identify with in this will change over the course of your life, right? I feel like it already has for me. Just on this rewatch. So yeah, I don't know. That's where I'm coming from, is that there's so much to talk about, but it's because that it's something to me to talk about, right? And then something, somebody else may see it a different way or see something that I don't even see, right?
Yeah.
So that's where I'm coming from.
Nice. Yeah, I feel like this show is hard to do and to pull off in a effective way. I've seen how many productions have I seen in my life? Hold on. 1,
Mississippi.
2.
Mississippi.
I think I've seen it like 5 or 6 times between professional productions and community theater productions. I've gone to New York to see it twice, good times, but I've never seen a good production until the one in Buffalo of like the most recent Broadway tour. Every production I've seen before that has just never worked for me. And I get the impression that a lot of productions lean too far into the fairy tale element and the whimsicalness as opposed to the grounded quality that's essential for it to work on an emotional
this
level.
can easily turn into like I've said before, like I like to think of it as a multiverse or an alternative telling of a fairy tale, but I mean that's not what you should aim to be. It just kind of is that. If you just let it be. But yeah, I could see if you leaned into that too far, it would be really hokey.
It would so hokey. I saw a super hokey production in New York that I traveled to New York just to see. I was so excited for it. Then when I saw it, I was so disappointed. And it was almost like it was very tongue-in-cheek, the whole thing. They didn't just double cast it. They had to cast maybe 8 people. So everyone was playing multiple roles, not for any narrative benefit, but just for, I think, the economic benefit of having less actors. So like Red doubled for Rapunzel, which didn't work for me. And her take on Rapunzel, it was more just like she was going through the motions of almost making fun of Rapunzel as opposed to embodying Rapunzel. It was kind of that like, reminiscent of when Olaf recreates Disney movies. And he's like, look, now I'm this character. It was very much in that vibe. And like Milky White was literally just a guy who they said, this is a cow. And like he had a rope around his neck. And it was more, that's literally what happened. And like that scene in Act 2 when the baker goes to Jack's house. And then Jack says, hey, look, Milky White, it's the butcher. Milky White looked at him and screamed. He was like, ah! It was.
That's good.
It is funny,
I'm a
but
fan of screaming cattle.
Oh yeah,
it would work if he was a goat.
Oh my
yeah,
gosh,
that's
hilarious. And like in that production, the stepsisters were played by guys, who, and they just took, like full bearded guys, and they were really just playing the angle of, look, ugly women who are men with beards.
I mean, what is an ugly woman if not a man? Sorry, that not to say that ugly women are men, to say that men are just ugly women.
Exactly. So like little things like that, I feel on a service level it makes sense and it's fun, but it does a disservice to the text, and I'm not a fan. Yeah. Like my ideal production, whenever Matt gets directed with a lot of money, it's going to have an extremely opulent set and bright, colorful costumes in Act 1. And then by Act 2, everything goes. No, well, I said when I have lots of money, Alex, not the actual production that I'm going to do. No. And then by Act 2, just everything is gone. And like the set is just an empty stage where like you see that's a stage. And literally it goes from everything to nothing. It goes from like Disney level sets to it's an empty, bare nothingness. And that's
that's what you get.
Perception. That's what you get.
You get nothing.
You get nothing. If I directed the movie, Act 1 would be animated like a classic Disney cartoon. Then they turn into real people in Act 2. That's Matt's version. There it is. Yeah.
Bravo.
Thank you. I know. Very smart.
We did it.
That's silly. When Into the Woods specifically uses the Grimm's version of the stepsisters being beautiful, not ugly. Exactly. See, they didn't get it. Oh yeah, I keep forgetting Rapunzel is the baker's sister. Yeah. They just gloss right over that.
They also say in the narrator's lines, he says "beautiful of face," or "fair of face."
Yeah, I was going to say they literally say it.
Yeah. There are other reasons it's awkward, but yeah, exactly. Just weird. And yeah, Rapunzel is the baker's sister. So there we are. All right. Let's go on to the game.
Game time.
Woot! I had one.
Wait, Rapunzel isn't the baker's. Oh yeah,
yes, she is.
I was conflating the baker with the baker's wife.
Oh, okay.
That's fine. Like sisters, but yeah.
Yeah, no, you're forgiven.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Gracias.
So, originally I had a game that was more fun, but we don't have enough people to play it. So.
Oh no.
Yeah. Well, actually, who knows? Maybe this game is fun.
We could make up a third person. or
We
fourth
could.
person rather. Chat GBT.
No, the original game was going to be, I was going to show you the title of a song from Into the Woods, and you were either going to have to hum it or charade it to get the title of the song out.
Lol.
So why
I know.
can't we do that?
Huh? Because we don't have enough people for the points.
Oh, that's true.
And, like, yeah, no, it's not as much fun. But no, this game is fun too. It has to do with all those delightful one-liners that we love so much. I'm going to show you the first chunk of one of those wonderful one-liners, and you have to finish the sentence for me.
Oh no.
Ah.
Yes, it'll be great.
Oh, will
Okay.
it?
I think it will. Here we are. So get your writing utensils ready. I welcome
Yes.
joke answers. And if you're both wrong, I'll give a point to whoever's joke answer is funnier.
Okay.
That's a twist. Here we are. First, opportunity is not. Opportunity is
This
not.
is like one of those things.
This is said at least twice. Yeah.
consent.
Is that a thing?
That's my joke answer.
Wow, you should put that on a t-shirt, Alex.
Oh my gosh.
It's
Okay.
important. It's an important message.
Now I can't get that out of my head.
Just write it down.
Now, to get the point for the funniest answer, you need to commit to it as your written answer. If
I know.
Yeah. And you only get the point if both of you are wrong. So it's a gamble. It's a gamble. Here we are. Let me know when you have your answers.
The right answer.
Okay. I know this isn't right, but it's all I can think of.
Okay, let's go. Answers, please. In 3, 2, 1. Jeanette, what do you think? Opportunity is not
Your friend.
your friend. Okay. Alex? He's not.
It's essentially the same thing as Vincent.
Well, I'll give Alex the humor point. We're
Like
looking
you,
for
I couldn't get it out of my head.
opportunity is not a lengthy visitor.
Yes.
The tree ghost lady says it. What child?
Yeah.
Specify. Opportunity is not a lengthy visitor. And good fortune, like bad, may befall when least expected. And then Cinderella says it again in First Midnight.
That was
All right.
totally cut from the freaking movie.
Yeah, oh, it absolutely was. And the tree was a willow tree. Ugh. It's supposed to be a hazel tree. Anyway.
It's Hazel, sillies.
The slotted spoon can catch. The slotted spoon can catch. I know at least one of you is going to get this one. Let's start with Alex's answer because I know Jeanette.
Wait,
knows it.
I'm still writing.
Okay. The potato. Boil it, mash it, stick it in a stew. Okay. Jeanette?
The potato.
The potato. You both get a point. The slotted spoon can catch the potato.
I'm a potato.
Next. No not. No not. This was one of my lines in one of the productions I did. That's a hint.
I definitely.
Let's go. Let's start with Jeanette.
Yeah.
No not.
Is a straight rope.
That's actually that's in the right that's in the right neighborhood.
There you go.
Alex. No not is a
ponytail.
Okay, well, who do I think is funnier?
What is funnier? Mine just I was trying to get it right.
I'll give it to Jeanette. There we go.
All right.
No knot is a straight rope. It's no knot unties itself.
Oh.
Yeah, well, the act.
The follow-up
2 or
is
the
every
act-
knot was
yeah.
one straight rope.
Once a straight
Yeah.
rope. Yeah. Just like it's not a straight.
Next. You may know what you need, but to get what you want, better see that you. You may know what you need, but to get what you want, better see that you. Ba 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 ba. That's the scansion. You may know what you need, but to get what you want, better see that you ba 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 ba.
Ba 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 ba.
Ba,
1,
ba,
2,
ba,
3,
ba.
4.
1, 2, 3, 4. Better see
Probably
that you-
4 words.
Yeah.
But maybe not 4 words.
Maybe
Could
not
be
4 words.
less than 4 words with multiple
Could be multisyllabic
syllables,
words. Yeah, 4
but
syllables.
probably 4 words.
Probably 4 words. Probably 4
Considering the
monosyllabic
previously
words.
established.
You may know what
pattern.
you need, but to get what you want, better see that you
Although better.
platypus it.
Better see that you better bet that.
Better see that you ba, ba, ba,
Better,
ba.
ba, ba, ba. Better see that you better.
This is again from the first
Eat
midnight.
me.
It's the baker's wife. It's the baker's wife. It's
This
right
is
after
like
she
that-
loses Milky White. Okay, let's start with Jeanette.
Here, this is what I got.
Uh-oh. You might win.
You see that you
Leave.
Wait, what did she say?
I can't write. That's the only
Better
thing
see
I
that
can
you
figure
leave.
out. Leave.
Leave.
Okay, Alex.
It's like a Jumanji rhyme. It's a Jumanji rhyme.
That's true.
Okay, so either I'm right or I lose because Jeanette's hilarious answer.
Oh, of course. Get what you need. Oh, you're so close, Alex, but you're wrong. So Jeanette does get it. It's keep what you have.
See that
You may know what
yeah.
you need, but to get what you want, better see that you keep what you have. One midnight gone. Sometimes the things you most wish for
It doesn't rhyme.
are not to be
that's
touched.
why.
No, it's true. I don't think any of these
Thanks,
do.
thanks, Sondheim.
Thanks, Sandy. All right. Next. Nice is different than.
Oh, come on now.
I do have this on a t-shirt, actually. It's one of my personal favorites. All right. Let's start with Jeanette. Okay.
Oh, good.
Good. All right. Alex? Not nice. AK. Oh, okay.
good.
AKA. Okay. I'll give you the point. I'll give you the point. Nice is different than good.
Different than not nice.
And not nice. That works too. That works too. Next. Is it always or is it never? Is it always or is it never?
I don't know
All
how
right.
to. I was trying to be fancy.
Okay. Let's start with Jeanette.
I was trying to draw an ampersand. And it
Ah,
just-
see that?
There we go.
Yeah.
Nice,
I don't know how-
nice.
I don't know how
Alex?
to.
Is it never more? JK Simmons? What does that say?
Ampersand.
That's not how you
J.K.
do an
Simmons.
That's not an
Yeah,
amper.
that's an
Is it always or is it never?
That's
it never
an
J.K.
ampersand. That's what it is.
Ampersand?
That's the number 8, Alex.
That's
and the
how you
letter,
just-
and the letter S in cursive.
An ampersand is
No,
this.
No, that's
no.
that's a treble clef.
That's an no, it's not.
All right, both
No, I
of
know,
you
it's
are
a
wrong.
base
Neither of those is an ampersand, but you
That's
can
an ampersand.
easily
It
Oh wait,
is.
there's an
can
ampersand on
easily-
all of our keyboards. Hold on.
you could
Nope.
substitute. With
Oh, yeah, exactly.
This
Yeah,
little
it's
symbol.
mine
Hold
just
on.
backwards.
I substitute with that where you draw like a little thing with
I
the 2
draw
dots
the 8,
above it.
and everybody understands that the 8
Alex!
is the ampersand.
Alex, look who's here.
Eric Charters.
Charters!
Exactly. That's my picture. Just
That's an
backwards.
ampersand. That is not your picture
Oh
at
my
all.
god, it is. It's
At
this-
all.
It is. It's the same
At
thing,
all.
just
No.
mirrored.
Okay, you both get a
It's
point. Is it
literally
always
the
or?
same thing.
Is it always
it's-
or is it never ampersand?
Is it the same? No, it's the same thing if you were 8 or
Oh
5.
my gosh. All right.
Okay, next.
Uh,
She gives you food and she gives you rest, and she.
Oh my god, this is my favorite line.
There is actually an illustrated storybook of Into the Woods that came out in the 90s, and this there's a very picture of this moment.
Yeah, why couldn't we get this if we were gonna? I'm not gonna give it away.
Oh, what? Oh, in the movie?
Anywhere. I mean,
Let's go. 3, 2, 1. Answers. And she holds you close to her giant bazingas, draws you close to her.
close to her, or just said draws you into her giant breast, but it draws you close to her giant breast.
I'll give it to
sorry.
Jeanette. There we go.
Wait, what? Why? Is
Because
draws?
you said bazingas.
Is it draws or holds?
And
She draws
she
you
gives
close,
you
she
food
holds
and she
you close
gives you
to
rest.
whatever.
and she draws.
I think it's different in various the
Okay.
movie
That's
or
true.
the stage production, but yeah,
Yeah. And she
there's giant breasts
sings
involved.
a mean rendition of Be guessed. Oh, Eric knows. Draws you close. Eric played.
Draws
Yeah,
Okay, there
Into
you
the
go.
Woods.
So
I trust
did know
Eric.
it.
I trust Eric. There we go. All right. Next. He spread pitch on the stairs. I was caught unawares, and I thought. He spread pitch on the stairs. I was caught unawares, and I thought. This is more than just malice. Better stop and safe talk while you're standing here stuck on the steps of the palace. You think, what do you want? You think, make a decision. Why not say and be caught? You think, well, it's a thought. What would be his response? But then what would you do if he knew who you... Wait, but then what would you do if he knew that you were, that you know? What do you think? I don't know that lyric, apparently. I've never played Cinderella. Okay, oh, we're all ready. Here we are. Alex, you go first. And I thought, well, who cares? All right. Jeanette.
Hold on. I accidentally just erased.
Oh, no.
I went to click it. Okay. He cares.
He cares. Let's take it to Eric Charters. Once again, getting the point. Well, he cares. We were looking for well.
Who cares?
He cares. Yes. All right. Next. Seriously, are we?
Does that mean I don't
almost
get
done?
it? Does that mean neither one of us get it?
Well,
Yeah,
I said well. So.
Oh, he did.
Oh,
say
that's
well, but you
true.
didn't.
And
You said, well, who cares? Jeanette said, he cares. Who do I give
We
this
could
to?
both
Because
get
neither
it.
of them were funny.
or we can both get half.
You could both get
Yeah.
half.
Mine
That's what
was
you're gonna do.
obviously funny.
We could both get half.
Yeah, you both get half. There we go. Done. Next. Anything can happen in the woods.
That's the beginning of a few lines, though.
I don't think
At
it is.
least 2 or 3, right?
I think these specific words only come once.
Okay.
I'll sing it for you. Anything can happen in the woods.
Ba, 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 ba.
Da, 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 da. Exactly. It's that one. We're looking for that one.
Okay.
All right. Let's start with Jeanette's answer this time.
All right.
May I kiss you? Okay. Alex. May I kiss you? Eric Charters, may I kiss you? Correct. There we go. Any moment we could be crushed. Don't
Stop it,
feel
Matt. I can't
rushed.
take it. I can't take it. It's intense. I can't. I have to skip through that scene if there's anybody
Oh my
else in
gosh,
the
really?
room.
Cinderella's Prince was next on my bucket list of roles I wanted to do in Into the Woods because my goal at one point, well, I guess still, was to play every male role, but it's too late for me to be Jack. But yeah, I wanted to do a Prince next.
That contradicts our previous discussions of producing the woods. Why wouldn't we just do that?
What? Because
Have you be Cinderella's prince?
you need to be Cinderella's Prince.
I could be the fucking baker.
No, don't swear on my show. Don't take
I
my role.
know. Every time we almost made it.
I know, we almost did it.
Alex.
We almost did.
Jeez.
No, Baker's my role. You're
Oh.
Cinderella's Prince. We've discussed
Oh,
that.
ho, ho, ho. All right.
Unless we'll let the people decide. Jeanette, cast us.
Oh, that's not fair. That's not fair at all.
Don't cast us, Jeanette. Don't cast us.
No, cast us. Cast us.
No.
Just don't make us
This is
Cinderella's father.
Yeah, well, obviously. You're being serious, though? You want me to do that right now? Oh, God. Don't.
You can
I
also
can't
cast Vince and Eric.
Yeah, you can also cast.
I don't know Eric. I know Vince, though. Well, I've seen Vince on here, at least. Oh my gosh. Well, I know, but the thing is, I'm jaded by what you've already told me. I know that you want to be the baker, so like.
True, but I've already played the baker. I do want to play every role at some point in my life.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'd love to play the witch.
Yeah,
I think
actually,
Eric and I have that in common.
yeah.
Oh wait,
no,
yeah, I was gonna say.
How
are we okay?
dare you,
like,
Eric?
Eric gave me the witch.
I mean, I guess.
It's the
I am-
last midnight. I'm ready.
Honestly, I think I'd if you're gonna just completely gender bend any of the roles.
Yeah.
I mean, I would probably say Alex could be the baker's wife, and then Matt could be the baker. And then,
Oh, fuck. No.
Yes! It's a dream come true! Ah!
That's clearly the Vince.
He was,
I've
though,
done it.
right?
I've done it. I've done it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. What a
Oh,
production that would be. Moving on. Final question of the regular round. I sort of hate to ask it, but
Who?
oh, Vince has offered up to be Cinderella's dad in our production.
I mean, I'd be Cinderella's dad too. I feel like it's a
Hey,
fun.
we've already
think
sold
Vin-
the
I think
ticket to
Vince-
Eric.
I
For
think Vince
pride.
gets to be the wolf.
Oh yeah. I sort of hate to ask it. Ba, 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 ba. This one rhymes.
Yes, it does.
Okay, let's start with Jeanette.
Oh, hold on. There we go.
But could I have
Can
a
I
basket? Okay.
Or can I get a
Alex?
basket? I don't know.
Can
how
I
to
get a
say it.
basket?
Could I have a basket?
We were looking for what does that say? Do you have a
Basket.
No.
Wait, what-
Yeah, well,
Oh.
it's do you have an asket or basket?
Waka,
Okay.
Sort
waka,
of hate to ask it, but do you have an asket
Yeah, you're right.
or
That's the lyric.
basket?
Okay. Good job, Alex. All right. So your points are Jeanette has 7.5, Alex has 5.5. How many points do we want to wager for the bonus round?
All.
All okay. Alex?
How do I have more points than Alex?
I don't know, but you do.
Doesn't feel right.
4.
Okay. You have an opportunity to octuple your points. You could take your points and bump them up by ×8. Okay. So this is going back with the lyrics. It's going back to the lyrics of the witch's rap at the beginning. She lists off 8 different greens.
Oh.
Oh,
Tell me
fuck.
as many of them as you can. Greens, and nothing but
Nice.
greens. Dot, 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 dot,
Do they
dot,
have
dot,
to be in
dot, dot,
order?
dot, dot, dot. They don't have to be.
Okay.
Alex, you swore again. We were so close. We were so close.
If I have the common term for something that she uses the technical term for, because I can't exactly remember what her weird technical term for it was.
I think I know which one you mean too. So yes.
Okay. Are they all greens that you're looking for, or can they just be any plant that's in her garden that she mentions?
I'm looking for the 8 specifically in that.
Yeah,
chunk.
greens,
Greens and nothing but greens.
Okay.
But
But there's one that she lists. Actually, there's 2 that she lists that aren't greens, but I'll say there's one that she lists that's not a green.
Really? Which one? No, well,
Well, she probably
We'll get
there's-
into
there's
it, yeah.
Technically, it's like saying, I don't know, a radish is greens. You know what I mean?
Right. You should see my nectarines.
Well, they're.
No.
Oh yeah, nectarines don't count. But
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's in
well,
that
then
little
you
phrase,
just
in
answered
that-
my question.
oh, okay. No, I'm looking for it specifically in that passage. But she does mention
Okay.
others. But nectarines, yeah, no. Yeah, when I saw this, Stratford's another production I saw that wasn't good. Yeah, Stratford, she was dressed all in vegetables. The witch was basically made out of vegetables. And her nectarines were a bunch of nectarines that were like on her butt. They were like a bustle of nectarines. So when she said you should see my
Yeah, well,
nectarines, she turned around.
when
and
she says it in the
took it.
production, it's kind of cheeky, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like that.
But I'm telling you the same I tell kings and queens.
I can only think of 5 as far. I think I can remember. I can vaguely recall what she says, but I don't know them. I don't know what I don't have the knowledge of what those greens are. So I can phonate vaguely, but I couldn't really spell it correctly.
Okay, let me know when we're ready.
I'm gonna try though.
Okay.
Oh.
He said, all right, but it wasn't quite, because I caught him in the autumn in my garden one night. He was robbing me, rooting through my rutabagas, raiding my arugula, and ripping up the
You just gave away
Yeah,
everything.
what
No,
are
I
you
didn't.
doing? Yes, you
just
did.
sang it. Why?
Yes,
No, I
you
didn't.
You weren't
did.
mute.
No, I'm looking for the ones before that.
You
No,
just
that's
said
the
3
line.
of
That's
them.
the
No, it's
of
not.
them.
phrase. What are
No,
you
it's
talking
not.
about? That's what
No,
this said.
that's not the lyric.
Greens,
What
greens,
line are you
nothing but
looking
greens.
for?
Yeah, I'm looking for greens and nothing but greens. listing.
And you said the last part. You said the
You
second
did.
half of
You
that
said
part.
it.
I don't know. I want those. I want the 8 that come before
Well, that's
that.
in. Those are
No, it's
in
not.
the
In
eight.
those.
Arugula's not one of them.
What? That's
Yes,
one of my five.
No, it's not.
Freaking
Yeah, it
green.
is.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
No.
Parsley, pepper, asparagus, watercress, asparagus, arugula, rutabaga.
No.
Something. Yeah.
Okay, are we ready for the answer? I'll give you the answer.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. We're looking for parsley, peppers, cabbages, and celery, asparagus and watercress, and fiddle ferns and lettuce.
Okay, I got 4 of those.
Okay, I got. Hold on. Wait. I got watercress, celery, fiddle fern, peppers, parsley, ramps, rutabagas, and arugula.
I wasn't paying it. I was listening, but I also wasn't calculating. So I'm gonna. Okay, so who said parsley?
Me.
No. Yes.
Okay, we
parsley. I
both said
have
parsley. Who said peppers?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Cabbages?
No.
No. Celery?
Yes.
Okay. Parsley, peppers, cabbages, and celery. Asparagus?
No.
Yes.
Watercress?
Yes.
Yes.
Fiddle ferns?
Yes.
Uh-oh.
Lettuce?
No.
Okay. No.
It's over now.
Did you say parsley already?
Yeah. Yeah, and I got that. I got that you said parsley.
Yeah.
And ramps?
You got 5.
You got 5, Jeanette. So
Okay.
7.5 times 5. 35
Seven-
plus.
7.5 times 5 is 37.5.
Yeah, you got 37.5.
Woo!
Woo! And Alex, you got 5.5 times 4.
No, I got.
What, did you get 5?
I didn't. No, I got 4, so I lost. I didn't get any points.
No, I know. Oh, well, no, you still.
I
No,
won
you
points.
still get the points. They're just not as much. They're not enough to win.
They're just not as
You don't lose
plentiful.
points. Yeah, you don't lose points. You still
No,
get.
I did lose. Because I bet. I bet points and I lost.
Yeah, you got.
That's
You
that's
got
that's
Only
how.
bought-
You got your bet. You got your bet.
You got your
amount of
bet back.
points.
Oh, I
But
get
then
my
he still
bet
has-
back.
Yes.
Oh.
But wait, what is 4 times 5.5? Because he still had. Did you have the other points too? No, you don't have the other.
What? I don't
And
know.
I feel like mathematically you win no matter what, Jeanette. It's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
You won. Parsley, peppers, cabbages, and celery, asparagus, and watercress, and fiddle ferns, and lettuce. He said, all right, but it wasn't
Yeah.
quite because I caught him in
I
the
thought
autumn
it
in my
was-
garden one night.
Yeah.
He was robbing me, belittling me, rooting through my
Rudy.
rutabaga,
Through my rutabaga.
raiding my arugula, ripping up the rampion, my champion, my favorite. I should have laid a spell on him right
Oh,
there.
the rampion. That's what I heard.
Yes.
What's
like
a
ramps.
rutabaga?
What's a
Rutabaga?
rutabaga?
It's a fruit.
It's a root vegetable.
Yeah, it's a root
Oh,
vegetable.
what does it look like? Celery
Ooh,
root? What does
ooh,
it look like? Ooh.
It looks
Yelling
like
at
a
me, tell me.
jicama. It
Like
looks
a
like
what?
a jicama. A jicama.
What the?
What's
you know what a
that?
jicama
What's a
is?
jicama?
No?
A jicama.
What's a jicama?
Let's come on, more. Give me more funny words. Let's go.
Giant beige root vegetable.
This is a
That
rutabaga.
sounds like a celery root or a ginger.
That's a rutabaga.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, they can be purple, yellow, or
Looks almost like a
beige.
beet.
They can a multitude.
Can they
of
be
colors.
green though?
If they're unripe, I suppose.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. What does
Oh
it
wait,
taste
yeah,
like?
but that's not part of the greens list.
No,
How do
their
you eat it?
tops. Their tops are green.
Yeah. Let's see
How
how,
do
we
you
did
eat
in
it?
the
How do you
chat.
serve it? How do you
Parsnips,
plate it?
peppers, fiddle ferns, lettuce, asparagus, watercress. Close. You were close, Eric. You were close. I don't think she has. Does she ever say parsnips? I don't know if she says parsnips.
No.
Zucchini,
I
yam,
wish.
sugar cane,
What
soybeans,
a-
Butterscotch.
What a garden.
Okra. Yeah. Ooh, horseradish.
You were close, Vince. Vince actually wins. Vince wins. There we go. Congratulations, Vince. Hurrah.
Yes.
All right. Closing thoughts on Into the Woods, anyone?
I just think everybody should watch it.
I do too.
Movie or production. Either way, whatever way you can get your hands on it.
Yeah. Yeah. Alex?
Yeah.
Closing thoughts?
No, it's good. It's good,
Yeah.
fun stuff, and it's accessible. And I haven't seen the movie in a long time. I maybe circa, 2014, 15.
Mhm.
So I'm down to revisit that. So
Very good. Very good.
yeah.
And for those in the Canada area, I highly encourage you to see whatever eventual production Alex and I both appear in, if it ever happens within the next year or two. So it'll be great. It'll be great. But until then, here we are. So yeah, this wraps up Sondheim month. So I guess
Boo.
no, I know. Well, there aren't that many. We could have done Merrily We Roll Along, which I really wanted to do, but there wasn't time. Maybe one day.
Could have done a little night music.
I forgot about. There's enough to do another Sondheim marathon, a part 2, but we've already done Into the Woods. So
it's like, is it worth it?
Is it worth it? Although, well, there are other things I wanted to do that we didn't do. Yeah, so we could do night music.
We didn't really do the stage production of Sweeney Todd.
That's true. Sweeney Todd to come back. We could look at the movie he wrote with Anthony Perkins, The Murder Mystery, because I think that would be fun too. Yeah. So maybe one day Sondheim will come back. There's enough to do another Sondheim. But for now, closing thoughts just on Stephen Sondheim, the collected works of Steve.
It's not. I wouldn't call it entry level musicals because there's some, like we said here, it doesn't all rhyme. You can't. It's not entry level, but I think that if you have dipped your toes in, Sondheim is your next step.
Well said.
Yeah. Sondheim's interesting. He's versatile, but he's also not, which is to say that there's like, I mean, if you look at like West Side Story, which isn't fully Sondheim, but lyrics and melody and for the songs. Like,
yeah, I can't remember.
But anyway, certainly the melody, if not the lyrics as well. Sondheim, like that gives you that gives you insight to know that like he can do like a classic, beautiful, simple song and melody, but he's much more known and most of his work is much more in the realm of like sort of technically complex and overlapping and 4, 8 or more people singing at the same time, saying different words and different lines and whatnot. And so yeah, he's interesting. But like he's interesting too, I think, specifically because of that, though, because he's not just one thing, even though he's predominantly one thing in that complexity sort of way. But
yeah, I agree. He's brilliant in his way. There are some things that as I've discussed in previous episodes, that not to say I don't like, but that don't resonate with me as much as other things. But when he's good, he's brilliant. Yeah. And exactly. I think he's at his best in this show, but also I overlook, I think, the contribution of James Lapine, because I think, as I said last week, a lot of the things I love about Into the Woods probably either more so or equally came from James Lapine in writing the book and like crafting how the story works. So yeah, James Lapine, I adore you. Because I know you're watching. So there we go. All right. Delightful. Well, thank you, friends. This wraps up Sondheim month. And next week we start on something totally different, which I'm very excited for. Do you both know what it is?
I can guess.
It's dun 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 dun.
Oh, we started in a weird key there. It was like it was like the building to the next.
Yeah.
We skipped like the first few bars, but
still, well, we haven't seen the movies in a while.
Jim.
We're gonna have practice.
Copyright infringement. Okay.
Imagine this video gets flagged for that. So yeah, starting next week, it's gonna be Thursdays moving forward into next month. So Indiana Jones month is upon us. We're gonna watch our way through all 4 released movies, and then it's gonna align perfectly that we can see Dial of Destiny and come back and talk about it.
Well, no, that's the 4th one. So we're gonna watch the 4 movies, including the newest one. That's
of course.
The 4th movie.
Are you not joining us for Crystal Skull, Alex?
I
haven't heard of that. That's
it's the 4th movie.
Can we tag Shia LaBeouf in that one?
See if he joins us.
Yeah.
I feel like that should be a running theme. I'm going to try to get somebody from all these movies.
I think we should. I think that's
because we almost got the caterpillar. If I had tagged the caterpillar instead of him just finding the
second half of 2023, we got to choose who we want to show up to these.
So I don't think we can get Harrison Ford. Maybe we can get Marion. Maybe I don't know what she's.
Shia LaBeouf's like kind of like he's one of those like strange, wacky dudes that, you know, borderline probably would, you know,
Yeah.
like
Might
it
actually.
wouldn't be surprising if he just like showed
Yeah,
up for a little,
exactly.
like, you know.
We'll see what happens. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited to discuss those movies and to revisit them with you next week. But yeah, until then, thank you, friends. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for Sondheim Month. It's that time. Tell all the people all the things.
Hey, so you can find me here. You're gonna find me here Thursday nights next month. And then you can find me on We Like Theme Parks Thursday day drop. You can find a new episode every week. And yeah, we just recently had a King of the Castle with Matthew Yipchuk.
Woo! No spoilers, but I didn't do great.
And neither did I. But it was a lot of fun. You should go listen.
Agreed. Thank you, Jeanette.
It's a me, Alex, as opposed to Chris Pratt, who doesn't do that in Mario, which is so disappointing. I haven't seen it yet, but I don't think I will, because, you know, he's, you know, hashtag not my Mario. But yeah, it's me, and you know, spread the news, spread the hashtag. Let's see it on socials, guys. All right, and gals, everybody. I meant that, you know, kind of universally, neutrally. Let's do it, folks. And yeah, you know, that's how we do things here at the T.
Are you frozen, Alex?
No, I was just doing a bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if you're watching this channel, this is my channel. My name is Matt. I have 2 degrees. Thank you so much for joining us for the Sondheim Musical Marathon. As we said, join us next week. Same time, same channel, same day. Thursdays going forward, we're going to be here to discuss the Indiana Jones franchise. Cannot wait. Until then, please like, comment on the video. There's 11 of you watching right now. It helps the algorithm if you just click the thumbs up and just write anything in the comments. Anything. I don't care. Please just do it. Just do it. Why not? Yeah, join us next week. That's it. My name's Matt, 2 degrees, etc., etc. Teacup for one. How do you end this?